Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on April 13th, 2022, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Bob Rawls and I serve as the chair. Hearings are broadcast live on Channel 18 and are also recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. Today's hearing is being conducted by remote video conference. Remote meetings are currently allowed by the governor's authorization through July 15th, 2022. The agenda and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, after hearing from applicants, representatives, and interested parties, I'll ask for comments and questions from commissioners. Please remain muted unless you are speaking. If you're attending by phone, mute using *6 and use *6 again to unmute. If you're on the Teams platform, indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. If you're attending by phone, please unmute with *6 and address the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you are not a commissioner and you are on the Teams platform, please keep your camera turned off unless you are speaking. The commission will vote on each matter by roll call. So that we have a record of a quorum, I'll now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Bob Del Vecchio.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Karen Latin.
Present.
Mary Sullivan.
Present.
Elise Gordon.
Present.
William Doherty is still not here. And Cheryl Meservey.
Present.
And I'm here, so we do have a quorum. This being the second Wednesday of the month, we must finish the hearing by 4:30 due to another broadcast on Channel 18, which gives us 3.5 hours. So that we can hear every application, we may need to continue any that result in protracted discussion. I'm not sure that's going to be the case today. We have a fairly light agenda. Nikki Smith, Chatham's conservation agent, will now lead us through today's agenda, including whether anything has been continued.
All right, so we do not have any continuances today. The first application is a request for determination of applicability, 80 Stage Harbor Road, Susan Maybile, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, for the town of Chatham, map 14D, parcel C1, removal of beach grass to restore the beach area to its original size. And Susan is here as the applicant for the town.
Hi, folks. I'm sorry if you can't see me. I would ask, this is my first time before you, so hoping I do a good job for you. We've come before you. It's been brought to our attention that the grass is increasingly taking over the footprint of Oyster Pond. And as included in the packet, from 2010 until 2021, you can see the significance in the loss of the beach area, the bathing beach area. So what we'd like to do is restore the bathing beach area by grass removal, the beach grass removal, utilizing our DPW crew. The grass that will be removed will be utilized in other areas, in beach areas where it's needed, where it can grow and add to those particular areas. We do have a plan for removal through DPW. I do have Gary Glazer here with me too, who is the DPW superintendent, who can speak to that if there's any questions there as well.
Okay. I think is that your presentation? So I just want to make sure I'm not stepping.
Well, you know what? Again, I've never done it before.
Okay. All right.
If I can answer questions or present in a better way, I'm happy to. So
no, that was fine. Just want to make sure. I just want to. So this would be the first time in my experience on the commission that we've been asked to approve the removal of beach grass. So it's a first, but I understand the reason why you're asking. And the application said that the beach grass may be reused elsewhere, but I thought I just heard you say that it would be.
That is the plan. We haven't determined the specific areas, but there are clearly needs where the grass can be replanted. What I didn't add also is we will replenish with sand. Any sand that happens to be removed, we will replenish with that as well.
Okay. Actually, I see Robert Duncanson's virtual hand is up. So let's hear from
Yay.
him.
Yeah, thank you, members of the commission. Yes, we at the staff level recognize that this is a somewhat unique situation. And when we first talked about it, I was like, first time in my tenure in Chatham we've ever made a request or had a request like this, because you're right, it's usually the exact opposite. Somebody is looking to replant beach grass. But this is somewhat of a unique circumstance, being a public beach heavily used by families with small kids because, low wave action and shallow water. So we are evaluating the opportunity to basically stockpile this sand and beach grass up at DPW, where we would normally stockpile sand from dredging projects and whatnot. And then we're going to look to see if we have other locations around town with town projects where we could, replant the grass. We haven't come up with any specific locations as yet, but we're still evaluating, potential locations. We just did we just did beach nourishment down on Harding's Beach. You would think that would be the optimum location, but, we've been working with Mass Audubon and others. And the area where we basically put some of the spoil, we don't want to necessarily put beach grass in, because we're trying to create piping plover habitat, and they like the more wide open areas. So, but we are still evaluating other locations around town where we may be able to use this grass, because obviously it saves the town money instead of having to buy grass from somewhere else if we can reuse it.
Okay. So since we're talking about how long would it survive if you removed it and then stored it until it was planted? How long would you have?
It would survive a couple of months at least, because as you know, beach grass grows by rhizomes. So as long as, the root system is still there, you may lose the vegetative growth up top, but as long as the roots and all are still there, I mean, that's normally how you plant beach grass, is plugs. So I think, we'd probably see it survive for a couple of months, until we can hopefully, potentially find another location for it.
Mhm. Okay. So Karen.
There's actually beach grass, it seems, coming up all the way individually to the lifeguard stand, and there's beach grass under the lifeguard stand. Is that also being removed, or just where it's thick?
There's no plan at this point to remove any beach grass underneath the lifeguard stand. That lifeguard stand stays in place pretty much year round, as opposed to some of the other beaches where they're removed seasonally. And yes, there are, individual plugs here and there. My recommendation is we not disturb those areas. They get disturbed enough, frankly, when the beach is in use with people's towels and all. It was really just the areas shown in the plan or highlighted in yellow that, the beach has substantially grown back into the point where, people don't want to put their towels and all down, because then they're right on top of a lot of grass. So that was the intent here, was just to kind of restore the open sand area, for the public to be able to use.
Okay, thank you.
Bob?
Yes, thanks, Bob. So when it's stored, Dr. Duncanson, the beach grass at the DPW, will it be watered from time to time so it will remain viable?
It probably wouldn't be, because it survives pretty well on just the natural rainfall that it gets when it's out on the beach. And it would be getting the same basic conditions when it's stockpiled. So at this point, I wouldn't envision doing that. Basically, it would be to our advantage if it somewhat goes back into dormancy for a period of time. That would not necessarily be a bad thing. It would extend its life a little bit longer.
Okay, and one other thing, when it is removed, how deep will you go down with the machine? Will you go down deep enough to remove all the rhizomes? Because we wouldn't want to come back, another year or two later.
The intent would be to get down 4 to 6 inches, which should get the majority. I don't want to go too deep and really disturb the beach profile much. So I'm envisioning just 4 to 6 inches and, kind of slice that off. In that circumstance, we may not get all the rhizomes. But as as you can see, it's taken the beach a fair amount of time to fill in. So, hopefully we wouldn't be back in a year, that maybe we're back in another 10 years or something with a similar request, but hopefully, not in another year.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Cheryl?
Beyond the grass, is it Phragmite that's there as well?
There is some Phragmites when you get down towards the further to the south, if you will, where it really starts to narrow down into that tight V. And that's why I didn't go any further than what's shown in the highlight in yellow, because once you get past that, the beach grass becomes exceedingly dense. There is some Phragmites there because of, freshwater runoff. As you know, there's a wetland area across the street that has Phragmites in it as well. So I didn't want to disturb the areas that were really heavily beach grassed. And I actually had a conversation with Ted Kean, our coastal resource director, and he said, well, why weren't we restoring this all the way back to the way it was, say, in the 2010 photo, all the way down basically to the V? And I said, well, because the beach grass the rest of the way is pretty heavily established. And, we don't necessarily need that area for the public's use right now. So that's why we went as far as we did.
Is that all, Cheryl?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any other hands up. So this is an RDA, right? This is an RDA, yes. So the way we approach this is either a negative determination, which means that no.
Yep.
No, shoot.
So it would
Yes,
be a
yes.
-2, that work is in the resource area, but is not going to have a largely negative, I can't remember the exact wording, but is not going to have a negative overall impact on the resource area. Or it would be a positive determination. I can't remember which number. I'll have to look that up before in case we take that vote. A positive determination that they need to, it's basically either no or file a notice of intent.
Yes. So would it be possible to put it's difficult to attach conditions to an RDA, but in this case, we could, or could we ask that the beach grass try to be reused in as much as possible?
Yep. So what I do with RDAs, there is a small section where you can say, you can put a couple conditions. Again, they're not recorded on the deed type of thing. So they're hard to enforce, but they are on the permit. Or if it's a little more complicated like this one, I would probably draft a full letter that said, reuse the beach grass. This is a one-time only thing, that, those kind of stipulations.
Right. Not an ongoing approval. Yeah.
But actually with that, I do have a question. Is there any maintenance that's planning to be done, or is this just going to be done once and then, because obviously in the pictures I was showing, even in front of the parking lot, there's a large amount of grass that has accumulated over the last 10 or 11 years. So it does seem like it's going to be an ongoing issue. So is it kind of a maintain it throughout the years and not have to come back and maintain it in the same exact footprint? Or is this something where we're going to have to file a notice of intent that gives the ongoing condition of this is what can be maintained as the beach.
I think at this point, we would just be looking for a one-time event. If we need to come up with a plan that's more encompassing, because, you know, you're absolutely right. The beach area is getting smaller because there's grass growing in front of the parking area and everything and other locations. We would do a more comprehensive filing, you know, probably a complete notice of intent to be able to have ongoing maintenance conditions.
Okay, so that would be another thing I would say in the letter, that you can do this the one time on the RDA. Any future maintenance, a notice of intent shall be filed.
Yeah, and that would be acceptable.
Right. Okay. So, doesn't sound like there are any objections to it. So Bob, I think if we had a motion with stipulations, you could just say the conditions as Nikki described.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a -2 determination for this project for 80 Stage Harbor Road with the conditions that the agent has described.
Latin second.
We'll call a vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that is approved. May I ask the participant, I see RMV is on the Teams platform. They're back to us now. And now, can I ask you to turn your camera off, sir, unless you're speaking? RMV. That's you're the gentleman who's chewing something right now on the screen. Can you hear me?
It's Bob Warshafter.
Oh, it is Mr. Warshactor. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Could you just turn off your camera, please, until you are asked to speak, or until you are speaking? I'll let you work on that. Looks like you're looking around. All right. I think we're ready for the next one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And
Oh yeah, thank you. That was excellent. You did a fine job.
well, next presentation will be far more impressive. So thank you so much, all.
Thanks, Susan.
Okay.
All right, next we have the beginning of the notice of intent. We have 70 Queen Anne Road, Robert Duncanson, Town of Chatham Natural Resources, map 13E, parcel 1514, SE 103553, proposed pump station for the comprehensive wastewater management plan.
Hi, and good afternoon again. At the last meeting where we presented this project, we indicated that the large tree that was right near the intersection of Oyster Pond Furlong and Queen Anne Road would have to be removed. The commission asked us to evaluate potential alternatives to that removal. And I submitted a memo to the commission yesterday, which I will summarize briefly. We had HF Johnson Tree Farm, which is the premier tree moving company, if you will, on Cape Cod, take a look at the tree. And they indicated a couple things. One, it is not an American sycamore, which was indicated at the previous meeting, but it is a London plane tree, which in many respects looks almost exactly like an American sycamore. So there was no surprise that, you know, there was some not confusion about what it was, but uncertainty. The important information to note is that London plane trees are not native. So it is a non-native tree to this area. It's basically a cross between an American sycamore and an Asian plane tree. They are used quite extensively in urban environments, big cities and all. They actually started out being used in London on the streets because they are very tolerant to smoggy city-like conditions and whatnot. Their difficulty from our perspective, and I indicated this in the memo, is they have very extensive root systems that, you know, are very powerful, to use a somewhat interesting term with a root system. And so we did look at moving the underground sewer piping that currently is shown on the plan and relative proximity to the tree. The engineers were able to come up with an alternative that moved that piping further away, not to the other side of the retaining wall or anything like that, but basically did move it away. However, even at that distance, which was only, say 5 to 10 feet, we still had concern that the tree roots could ultimately impact the sewer piping, as well as all the underground utilities. So between that and then the estimate from H.F. Johnson Tree Farm to move it of in excess of $100,000, it is my recommendation to you, based on all that information, that we not try to save the tree, because we just don't know. Even if we were to try to save it and move the piping further away, we would be concerned about the long-term viability of the tree from damage to the root systems, which obviously will need to occur because of its location and the size, the extent of its roots, as well as the potential for future impacts to either the underground sewer line, underground electrical conduits, and all the other things that will be going underground right in that very area. So again, it's my recommendation, based on the information that we were able to gather since the last meeting, that the tree be removed. So with that, I'm happy to answer any question. We do have our engineer from GHD on the line as well. And I just want to indicate what Nikki has up right now is a slightly modified landscape plan from the one that we showed you last time. Couple of minor things have changed. We did add a deciduous tree over on, basically as you're facing the screen on the left-hand side there. We moved a couple of the shrubs kind of in the middle of the long axis of the retaining wall, because originally they were shown right over the top of existing drain pipes for the stormwater system that's in that area, for which the town has had an easement since the 1970s. I didn't want any plantings directly over the top of those pipes. Obviously, if the town ever needed to get in there and do any work on those pipes, we didn't want to be planting things right over the top of them. And then we beefed up some of the plantings on the lower side, the short axis of the retaining wall, if you will, as well as the plantings right along Queen Anne Road. And right now, just so you know, those plantings are shown marching in a straight line. That is not the way they will be planted. They will be offset to provide a more natural look. The primary purpose there is basically to just screen the pump station from people driving along Queen Anne Road. To make it, to plant around it as densely as we can. We've got some of these other pump stations around town. The most obvious one is Meadowview, where basically the plantings that were put in 10 years ago, now you can barely even see the pump station because they've basically filled in and provide a great screen. Obviously, we don't have any immediate residential abutters right here, but we are cognizant of screening from the road as well as from the Queen Anne Inn property itself. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Duncanson. I am satisfied that you did your due diligence for looking at options to save that tree one way or another, either move the equipment or whatever. So let's see. Janet has her hand up.
Okay, thanks, Bob. So just to clarify, the London plane is the only tree that's being removed, or the other trees that are along Queen Anne Road also, because they seem very close to some of the project elements.
Yeah, the other trees that are down towards the basically the short axis of the retaining wall, those will also be removed. Yeah, because they are in the way, and basically we're making up for those with the new plantings.
Okay, so there are 8 of those as I counted them. So
Yep.
with the plants, total of 9. Okay. And what are those trees? Do you know offhand?
I do not offhand. I don't know if the engineer knows offhand. Ben, I don't know if you know.
Bob. Yep,
I'm sure
Ben
Bob
Wyman's with
Delvecchio
GHD.
knows.
I believe they were poplar trees on the back side.
Okay. So I did notice the changes in the planting plan, the 11 white spruces, that's an increase of 8, and those are the ones that are going to be used for screening, I take it.
Yes.
Okay. There was an additional scarlet oak. There were originally 2 called for in the plan. I'm wondering why one is it's reduced to just the 1.
If there were 2 originally proposed, the biggest concern we had was about their roots getting in the way of things. But yes, we can certainly look at putting the second one back in.
Okay,
We
well,
just
I
need
don't
to
want
find
to
a
put it
good
in,
spot
I
for
don't
it.
want to recommend it going into an area that is not viable for it or for it to. And there was also a white pine that had been listed that has disappeared. And is all of that because of the changes and the increases in the spruce trees?
The planting plan that I have still indicates we're doing 11 white spruce.
Yep. Oh, there was a white pine that had been
Oh,
listed.
sorry, white pine.
Gone.
Yeah, no, we can certainly, we're limited in somewhat in space because we're just getting an easement to do the plantings, but we can certainly work with the landscape architect to, add more plantings in.
Yeah.
Planting, yeah, just so the commission understands, these are minimum plantings that we're showing. Once we get the plantings in and we talk with the folks at the Queen Anne Inn and all, we will supplement with additional plantings if we need, if they request or we say, hey, there's a gap here that we need to fill in. Because sometimes it's okay waiting 10, 20 years for plantings to fill in. Sometimes you want that kind of instantaneous screening, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's generally what we go for, and especially in a situation like this where it is kind of, right out where the public can easily view it. Depending on the size that the landscapers are ultimately able to get, from the nurseries and stuff. So far, knock on wood, we haven't had supply chain issues with plantings. So when we specify the bigger ones, we've been able to get them. But when the time comes to actually do it, if we have, or if we're not able to get the real tall and big ones, we may have to increase the number of, say, smaller sizes.
Yep, and I also appreciate how constrained this particular area is and is already heavily vegetated. Unfortunately, a lot of that is invasive vegetation, which is too bad. I understand the town doesn't own that and can't do anything about it. But so 2 things. One is we do have a standard condition that at the end of the day, once the plants are in, the agent can, the commission through the agent can request additional plantings if it's not as dense as it could should be, or the commission wants it to be. So we can do that later.
Yep.
And we'll also put in a condition that, puts the responsibility on the town to maintain, to prevent the encroachment of the invasives that are bordering it, so that they don't just get wiped out by them.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Janet. Bob?
Yeah, I don't know if it's me or if it's the plan, but on the plant key, the plant list, it reads 11 white spruce, and I count only 8. So I don't know if is that a discrepancy or not.
Wait, 1, 2.
Yes, it is.
I thought there were 12 on that.
I actually count 12.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I only counted 8 also, Bob, so it's 2 of us. I only count 8. And then in fact, it says, okay, what is the date of the planting plan that we're all supposed to be looking at? Because I'm digital only.
Yeah, it's the one that's in the Dropbox. It's dated March 8th.
Where is that date?
On the far right corner is a stamp date on it.
I don't see that. But anyway, on mine, it says, it shows 8 of those trees, and it actually says 8 number 1s, and then the table.
Yeah,
says,
we did send over a revised planting plan, which should show actually 12.
Show 12 actually depicted on the map with
actually depicted on the plan.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't have that.
Huh, that's strange.
Yeah, there's been a couple of iterations of the planting plan since we last met with the commission. And I believe you were forwarded the most up-to-date one with my memo yesterday, but it may not be the one shown on the screen
Okay.
or the one that you have in your packets.
I'm
All right,
pretty
wha-
sure
what-
this one is the one I got yesterday.
Yeah,
But I
I
don't-
think so, because this one does show the 12 white spruce along the road there.
Yep, that's the one I got.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the other tree. I am talking about the other tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's only 8 of the white spruces depicted on the plan.
Okay, we will either have the quantity adjusted or we will adjust the number shown on the drawing.
Well, hopefully, yeah, I think the numbers match up with what you've been saying to us. It's just a matter of adding pictures of more of them on the plan itself.
Yeah.
Are those, I'm sorry to interrupt, but are the spruces, those are the dark, smaller dark in a line along the road?
No, those are the
Those are the eastern red cedars.
Aha.
cedars.
Oh,
Aha,
that's where we're getting
12 of
confused.
them, okay.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
It says,
Okay.
yeah, 12 number 3s, and you look down at the table, and number 3 is cedar.
There's the cedar, okay.
Yep.
Aha.
So, Bob, you weren't crazy, and neither was I.
Nope. I was counting red cedars as a spruce.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Spruce,
all I have, thanks.
one,
Okay. So we want to add some
8 number ones. Oh, yeah, you're right, 8 number
some-
one.
add some number 1s on the
Yep.
plan itself. Yeah.
Huh.
Let's see. The only is that all, Janet? Is that, or I mean, Bob? Yeah, you just said it, so it's all okay. So yeah, the only thing that occurred to me is, I think along the lines of what you were saying, Janet, is there's only one oak, and all the disciples of Doug Ptolemy know that oaks are the go-to tree for species, 600 species per oak, and more of those the better. If there's any way, Dr. Bob, to increase the number of oaks, I think that benefits the environment. I understand how you want to protect your underground pipes and so forth. But anyway, just something for consideration.
Yeah, no, I think we have space to increase. We can put some of those more on the outer edges of some of those, white spruce down towards the short axis of the retaining wall, if you will, down towards that end, away from any underground, whatever. Yeah, I'm always a big fan of trying variety so that we don't end up with a monoculture of anything. So
Right.
yeah, we will.
Dallas, can you hear us? No.
Nope, he's not on the list anymore. I don't.
Okay, so we're told there was a technical difficulty there, which means and that we need to revote on the previous application. Do we need to re-motion and re-second, or just?
I would just do the whole
The
thing
whole
just to make sure.
things. So Bob, do you remember what you said?
Yeah.
Motion to continue to May 4th.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we continue 70 Queen Anne Road to the work session on May 4th, 2022.
Latin second.
Roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that's approved twice.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And again, so we have 4 Homestead Lane East, Keith and Linda Burkhauser, map 16C, parcel 89-71, SE 103548, proposed repairs and changes to access stairs.
And again, this is Catherine Ricks with Coastal Engineering with Ian from Wilkinson, and I'm just going to present the revisions that we've made since the last hearing. So we've made some revisions to the patio extension on the west side of the house, went from a 15 by 10 to a 15 by 13, all still outside the 50-foot, between the 50 and 100-foot buffer. So that went from 150 square feet to 195 square feet. We revised the eastern extension of the patio, and it went from 241 square feet to 105 square feet. We also revised the platform onto the stairs from a 4x12 to a 4x4. So that went from 48 square feet down to 16 square feet. And then we've revised the platform, the 4x14 platform at the mid bank. We are going to do a through flow decking or approved equal, which allows a lot more light penetration through than your typical timber stairs. And I will show examples. So this is one of the alternatives from through flow, is this aqua deck, which you can see has 43% light penetration through, which in comparison to your typical timber steps, it's timber planks on a platform or on a deck that are only spaced 1/4 to 3/4 inch, you have a lot more light that goes through with this through flow. So it would be that or an approved equal that we would request. And with that, the Wilkinson has done for their plan a shade tolerant seed mix for under the platform and under the staircase the full way. And I will turn it over to Ian at this time with his revised plan.
Thank you. For the record, Ian Peach, representing the project for Wilkinson Ecological Design. After hearing your feedback at our last hearing, we took another look at our vegetated buffer, specifically on the western side, where we thought there might have been some more room to augment what we were already proposing. So we've added, actually in 3 places, about 200 square feet of increased buffer to our already fairly robust proposal of vegetated buffer. So you can see the revision clouds. Catherine, if you're able to go back to that first full plan slide, maybe. I don't know if you could zoom in maybe just a tiny bit on the whole plan. But there are 3, there we are. So on both sides of the stairway, as was asked for, we've now bolstered that, increased that. We also thought there were some unused opportunities on a second look all the way to the east. So we've taken your comments in terms of a specific location and also used it as an opportunity to just, take a relook at the project. So these will just, be on top of what we are already proposing and stitch right into that nice native grass and diverse herbaceous species proposed to be plugged and planted at that vegetated buffer. So those are our primary revisions. As Catherine did allude to, we always like to work comprehensively, property line to property line. So after the invasive plant management and before the stairs, we would definitely be getting a full cover of grass established under those stairs to work in concert with the proposed infrastructure. So we don't have kind of an area for erosion or an area that's unvegetated. So with that, I'm available for any questions, and thank you.
Thank you. I see Karen's hand is up.
Yes. Can you speak to why you made modifications to the two patios? And also, I am just interested in, there's been no modification to that 4x14 platform, and I'm just concerned about the size of that. It's quite large, and I just am concerned about the precedent that this sets in allowing a large platform to go down the hill.
For the eastern side patio extension, they decided to remove a portion of it in order to allow this to stay open. And their main reason for that patio extension is they would like a fire pit on like the existing part, and this would just allow for a little extra around the outside to have seating around the entire fire pit that they have there. They do have a gas line already extending out to that area, so that's why that location was chosen. And then they wanted to increase the area of the patio on the eastern side here, just within the 50 to 100 and not creep into the 0 to 50, just to have an area there that's outside of their, right from their garage out there. And then we felt that the change in the modification to the platform that's 4x14 to the through flow decking would make a lot more light penetration there. And it's not wide enough for people the bench is not a standing area. So the width of it is still that 4 feet. And then the bench leans off the back side of it. So we felt that there's no real increase in the impact to the coastal bank, because you're going to need the same number of posts, whether it's 4x14 or 4x12 or 4x10, you're still going to need those same posts. So we felt that it still would provide the seating for the elderly members of the family there on that about midway on the bank, while changing the material for the decking to allow the light through to allow the vegetation underneath.
Okay, well, I'm still concerned about the size, and it really is sort of it's a sitting area, so it's not just a moving to get to the other side of the stairs. And at time, I had said, would they consider possibly continuing to go straight down and putting a gate? Because the whole reason we were told that this was happening was because that you don't want people falling down, getting momentum and ending up falling down all these stairs. That's a very wide area to prevent somebody from going down the stairs. 14 feet is a big change. Also, on the previous one, the proposed patio that's now 15x13 was a screened-in porch. So I assume it's no longer a screened-in porch. It's just a patio, and is it dry laid?
It's not a screened-in porch. It's just the patio. He hasn't decided whether it's going to be dry laid or what material he'd actually use for that. It was just that he wanted to propose using that area for a patio.
Okay, well, we'd need to know how it's going to be, whether it's dry laid or not. That has to be decided, I think, before we would do an order. Because in our orders, usually we would say we want it dry laid. We don't like the other ways more permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my thoughts, and I'll let somebody else take over.
So the reason for the 14 feet is that the homeowner has 4 to 5 elderly people typically staying at the home when the family visits. And the bench part, because the stairs are 4 feet, that leaves 10 feet for the bench, approximately 2 foot on that bench per person sitting. So that was why we went with 14 instead of 12 originally in our plan. The size of it on that one, a sitting area partway through, so they don't just rest standing but are able to sit. And that was his main concern, not just falling down one long set, but also being able to rest in between. And there's not really an area at the bottom in order to have seating on the beach there because it's very limited dry beach in that area. So they could go down and walk along the beach, but then have that area when they're walking up the steps or walking down the steps in order to rest right there.
I'll let somebody else get involved, but you know, they've got that big patio up above that they can also sit on to see the water and everything. I understand wanting to enjoy the view.
Yeah, it was more,
But
thing
I'll
on
leave it.
on the stair, walk up and down the stairs.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Janet?
Thanks, Bob. I'm just going to echo Karen's concern about it. And I do understand the unique situation that the applicant is in, and having elderly people and having a fairly long, steep stairway to reach the beach. But that's what this property is. And it does have a plenty of water view and sitting areas up above. The problem I have, we do, when there's a long run of stairs down a large coastal bank, we do allow it to be broken up, but it's really needs to be minimal, because one thing that the commission does not allow are observation decks or viewing decks or decks on the coastal bank. We just don't. And so this straddles the line between a place to pause and catch your breath as you're coming up, get the safety issue, but with the built-in bench and space for 4 people to sit, it really tips the balance over into a deck rather than just a pausing area. So I echo her concern about creating a precedent that we don't want to have to live with.
Thank you, Janet. Since I don't see any hands up, I will go ahead and say my part. It's no. Oh, Bob, sorry. Go ahead, Bob. You go, and then I'll go.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I think we covered this the last time in the previous hearing, that we wanted a smaller break in that area, smaller deck in that area. I'm okay with the sizes of the other, patios, and I agree with Karen that the other one should be dry laid. But this is too big. And like Karen said, we don't want to create a precedent. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Elise?
I would also say, in relation to the stairs and the little deck on it, if I had elderly people with me at that house and they wanted to go near the water, I would take them around the road and down to where the pier is on Mill Pond right there. I think it would be much safer, and I think that this feels much more like it's an observation deck to me, and I'm with the group as well.
Thank you, Elise. And I guess I'll pile on. I telegraphed this, or I said the same thing last time, and I believe this is in effect, an observation deck, a deck on a coastal bank. And I don't think it's warranted because, given the fact that there is the substantial amount of patio up on the top of the bank, with what appears to me to be excellent views of the water. And so if that was not the case, it might color my thinking on it, but I just don't see the need to have the deck that large. I don't, as was mentioned, I think it does set a precedent. I think we would be sorry as a commission if we approved it, because then there would be plenty of applicants lining up for something similar. And we have denied, in effect, viewing platforms in the past on a number of occasions, and I see nothing here that's compelling that will should have us change our perspective on it.
Can I address the comments now that I've made?
Please do.
Okay. So there's nothing in the regulations on the size, and I understand that you don't want it 4 by 14. What would the limit be on being able to have just, a step to the side with a bench there to rest? What would the commission determine as the limit of what they would allow in this area in order for us to have somewhere for elderly to sit on, and if they wanted to go down and enjoy the beach that's in front of there or walk along the path that's in front of there. Is there a certain number we can agree on?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I mean, there's nothing specific in our regulations that guide us on this, but I think the idea here is that it's a safety issue that we acknowledge whenever you have a stopping spot halfway down where everyone can then step to the side, take a moment, and then continue down the rest of the stairs. You know, whether you have a built-in bench there or not, I don't know. But anyway, it needs to be just enough, in my view, and I'm speaking for myself, just enough for those who are going down the stairs to stop, step onto the next stairs down, and go down. And that's not very wide to me. You're going to wind up with if you have to have a bench, it's going to be 4 feet wide.
In my
Okay, sorry.
in my general experience, it's more of I mean, I'm not sharing my screen, but like, so where the first set of stairs ends, you would kind of do a little jog out and do a small bench in that footprint. Like a little further up. Yeah, so like right where that would be like kind of a, you know, maybe a jog out bench. A lot of people put like a storage bench where life jackets and stuff can go, and then do a small step off, a small platform to then do the jog for the next set of stairs.
So if the stairs coming down above are 4 feet wide, and then stairs they're continuing are 4 feet wide, then the whole platform, it would seem to me, should be 8 feet long.
Would 10 feet work in order to have a 2-foot offset from the other stairs?
I can't remember. Is the bench being is the proposed bench cantilevered?
Correct. It's not going to be supported by extra posts or anything like that. It's going to be cantilevered off the back, as we've done in a few other projects in Chatham in the past. So we're not trying to add any additional posts in that area on the bank.
So you're saying 4 + 4 + a 2 so that you can have the offset for the stairs to continue down.
Yeah, so it would be 4 outside to outside the first set of stairs, and then approximately 2 feet to then have the 4 to 4 on outside to outside on the lower set of stairs.
So that means your bench would be 6 feet.
The bench would be less than that. It would be well, we did 4 and then 2. It would be about 6. I mean, with the cantilever, it's slightly less, but it would be about 6, correct?
Yeah, between 5 and 6 feet. Yeah.
So possibly about two people comfortably, 3 people a little less, just to sit.
Right. Okay. Well, anybody in the commission want to chime in on that number? Karen.
I think one of the issues I'm having is that you are creating a viewing area. You know, whether you want to call it that or not, by putting the bench there. So, I mean, anything smaller is better, but be nice if it were a 4-foot bench. Maybe only 2 people can sit there. You know, I get it, but you've got an awful lot of areas to sit in that are lovely to sit and view the water. I'm struggling with the need for this to be that, you know, that big, obviously. And also I'm struggling with the precedent that we're setting and who else may say, oh, look, now we can do this. So, because we always have to look and see, are we setting a precedent that we're going to have to deal with going forward? And I am a bit worried about that as well. That's all I have.
How wide are the stairs themselves?
It's our typical design with I don't think I have the section in here, but 4 foot to outside. So your actual stair run is under that with the because you have the rails. So your
Mhm.
outside to outside is 4 foot and your walking is about 3.
Is it necessary for a family stairs to be that wide? It's not a public stair.
No, it's not a public stair, but your typical stairs are, the walking areas is around 3. We really wouldn't want to go any tighter than that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mary,
I wouldn't want to go
Mary,
any tighter than that on the stairs. But we're not going any wider than 4 feet when it comes to outside rail to outside rail.
right.
My only question, Bob, and this is really more of a question to you and Janet with your experience. I'm concerned with, are we setting a precedent by allowing a bench at all? That is not required for safety. Safety, the landing is definitely required, and there's, and I understand, to go the separation between the stairs, the 8 foot wide, but I don't know that a bench is exceeding our authority to allow on a coastal bank. It's a question.
Yeah, and I can actually respond to that in one way. I've done a project before in Chatham with the leaning. It's cantilever bench. It's not any additional posts, but I've done projects in Chatham with the bench on it as well.
Yeah, it's a good question, Mary. I don't, Jen, maybe do you specifically recall any benches that we've approved on a similar structure? I'm not.
I don't think we've ever focused on whether there's a bench, because in each case that we've approved a landing, it has always been pretty much contiguous to the run of stairs. So if it's 4 feet wide, the landing would be 8 feet to make room for the next 4 foot wide going down. I don't recall ever focusing on whether there was a bench. And I guess if that size, 4 by 8 is what is required for safety purposes. If they can put a bench on there, I don't care. I guess, but I do recognize in this case, in Mary's point, that the addition of the bench just seems to change the nature and the purpose of this landing, and moving it out from simply a safety concern into, an observation deck, which we don't generally allow on coastal banks.
So, can that platform be a 4 by 8? I guess that's what I am interested in.
I'd like to be able to go back to my applicant as well with any information on the size and potentially maybe about the bench as well.
Right, and the bench. See, Bob, you had your hand up in there. Okay. Any other comments about anything other than the stairway and the platform and the bench? I think the rest of it's relatively reasonable.
We had a quick question for Ian. I think you mentioned this, but I missed it. Is the new mitigation areas, are they the grass mix, or are they only being planted with the grass mix? And then you said the herbaceous mix could hopefully grow into it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, well said. So they will be seeded just like everything else. I mean, it'll be actually lawn removal there, and less of invasive plant removal. But it will get that multi-species grass mix that you have seen, very often, that we find works very well for all sorts of reasons. But you'll see adjacent to that, those kind of other polygon forms right, down bank or right up against them. Those are the clusters of the herbaceous species. So those species do have a tendency to colonize and mix. So although we're not necessarily proposing to plug right into that additional area, we anticipate it becoming one kind of diverse living mass of plants.
All right, perfect. That's what I thought I heard. And then just remind me, is there a split rail fence or anything proposed?
No proposed, just wanted, there is an existing split rail fence and some of the horizontals have rotted out. And I believe the applicant just wants to capture the ability now to replace those. So I don't think it's the verticals or any disturbance or anything new no change in location, just maintenance of those that have fallen on the ground.
All right, and then I always just like to be clear on demarcation of the between the mitigation area and the rest of the property.
Right, Nikki, yeah, oftentimes we ask for something like a split rail fence between the mitigation and the non-mitigation areas. Is that an option here?
I think, I mean, aesthetically, we definitely are aware of that demarcation and find value of it. It's something we've worked with you on. I think we'd be very open to that being into the order, as it often is. I think maybe split rail fence is not the choice for this property, as it's not so 90-degree kind of horizontal. You're going to have this kind of dancing around fence at the top of the bank with that waving edge. So something that'll make sure it's demarcated, but I'm hesitant to agree to a split rail fence.
All right.
Okay, so maybe if when Catherine talks about the stairs with the homeowners, we can maybe solidify exactly what they want for demarcation, whether it's, the metal hedging at the base or, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yes, we can do that.
Oh, two more hands up, Janet.
Thanks, Bob. I think we need to acknowledge and deal with Catherine's proposal to use through flow decking. I know you're gonna, let's talk about it.
They may not know. They may not know that some of us are allergic to the.
For background purposes, I mean, this has been presented to us, and we were happily on the through flow train and bus for quite some time because of the light advantage it provides to the vegetation. We ran into snags, and I think specifically on catwalks. And I think catwalks are a particular concern because they are in the aquatic environment. And we were concerned because nobody was able to put their hands on any kinds of studies that indicate whether the plastic used in the polyvinyl is subject to any kind of degradation in a marine environment, and whether that would end up with getting microplastics into the water. And in the absence of any data showing that, we have been reluctant to use that, at least in the catwalk arena. So I wanted to address it here. This is a coastal bank. I don't believe, looking at the plan, that the stairs end north of mean high water. So I don't think there's any likelihood of interaction between this decking material and the water. But I just wanted to make sure to see if we have any problem with putting it there. I know that the light advantages are tremendous, and so from my perspective, that's always important. Over to you, Bob.
Yes, thank you, Janet. Yeah, I'm the one who carried the spear for that for a while, and I wondered about it in this case too. I mean, if the platform does become significantly shrunk, it may not be as important to use it. I generally don't favor putting plastic into a resource area, which is what this is. Plastic degrades, and often it will degrade before the owner gets around to replacing it. And I'm just basically against it. The particulates can wash down the bank and get into the water. So, but obviously, since this is not a catwalk, it's not quite as egregious. But overall, I think the days of putting plastic in willy-nilly are over with. Okay, Karen.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we did want to know what the patios, whether they're dry laid or what they plan to do. So we do need to know that as well.
Good point, Karen.
I have that noted. Thank you.
All right, so I am assuming that you wish to continue.
Yes, can we please continue to the next hearing?
April 27th.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we continue 4 Homestead Lane East to the next hearing on 4/27/22.
Latin second.
Roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have 28 Cross Street, Ken and Betsy Summer, map 15D, parcel 4X28, SC10 3542, proposed pool and associated site improvements. Sorry, this one's a little convoluted. Somehow it was supposed to be on April 6th for an order of conditions. It missed that somehow, and then they sent revised plans just to show the dry well. So I thought that we were still discussing stuff because I saw the revised plans. And then when I was actually researching the file and going through it to do my reviews, I realized that we could definitely do an order today. So I did send out the order at the end of the afternoon yesterday. Like I said, it was a pretty simple one. So I didn't know if anyone had any comments or if everyone thought it was more or less okay.
Well, or something in between. So
Yes.
let's go ahead. This is not something we normally do, but we need to do it.
No,
this
but
time,
I mean, I think this was on the office side's fault. So I wanted to get this out for Sean.
Oh, well, we're a no fault commission. So let's go ahead and march through the draft order conditions. Are these up on the town website, Nikki? This draft, or has the applicant seen it? The applicant has seen it.
Sean knew that I was trying to get it out today, and he does, I believe, know that he can find them on the town website.
All right.
Or trying to get it out yesterday.
Yeah, Sean here.
Doesn't seem like it.
Doesn't
I don't
seem
think
to-
he actually knew that we didn't vote on it in the last meeting, so.
Oh, okay.
So he's been looking for his order?
Yeah.
Well, it's a little awkward because if he has issues with it and we approve it today, then he's stuck with it. We have two hands up, so we might as well, while we're thinking about that, Janet, you have a hand up?
Yep, just one quick correction, Nikki.
Yes.
In the project description. On the third line down, the ASS should be ADD.
Yeah. Good catch.
Darn that spell check, doesn't it? Doesn't pick
Sorry,
that
where was
up.
that?
In the project
Where was that?
description,
Oh, okay.
third line down, the project description, add a pool with pool filter. The other question I had was in the findings, finding number 4, no wildlife value being lost, which, yep, I think that's right, due to the project or the chain link fence. Did I miss something? Is there a chain link fence or is it just the picket fence on the top of the wall?
Nope, it was
It's
chain
between the
link fence
properties.
between the two properties
Oh,
on the
that
side
one.
with the arborvitae
okay.
on either
Okay,
side.
okay, that one. I thought it was trying to refer to the picket fence. Okay, got it. Then that's fine. And thank you, Nikki, for getting this done so fast. It's fine. I have no other questions with it.
I don't think Sean will either. He didn't
Well, we can give
state
him a
that
little.
he had any specifics.
We can give him a little bit of a pass if it turns out he can let us know.
Oh, wait, Todd's here.
Yeah, I was wondering if Todd wanted to. You're muted.
Thank you. I just called Sean. He is out in the field right now and couldn't jump on, so he was not aware that he was on. The order of conditions, Nikki, did you send Sean a draft of those? Because he didn't seem to have seen them at all.
I didn't. I always post them on the MyTownGov for people to look at when the engineers think about it. But I
Okay.
can send him a copy. It's a really pretty simple one that I don't think should have any modifications.
Well, I got a
didn't seem-
couple.
He
but-
didn't seem to have any issues with it. He felt that it was going to get approved pretty standard. So, if you're saying it's not too difficult, Nikki, or nothing special, I don't see why we would have a problem with it.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go over the commissioner's modifications if they, the ones that they have, and then I will send a final copy to Sean and make sure that he's fine with it before we issue anything.
Okay,
And then if for some reason he has a modification that seems major by any means, then I'll go back to the commission and we can discuss it. So,
great, thank you.
all right.
All right. I don't see any hands up, so I didn't have many either, but thought on the findings it'd be useful to note this is going to be a saltwater pool because it relates to a special condition later. And that is, as two special conditions, I thought we ought to add. One is that pool water should not be drained into the adjacent resource area. And I know that we have standard language for that, but I just thought since it's so easy, it would be so easy for the owner to, not this owner's, but some subsequent owner to drain that pool into that robust drain hole that's being put in. And then it goes straight into the resource area. That I would like to call it out that should not be drained that way as a special condition.
Bob, just to jump in here, we do have, I agree. We have 4 standard conditions for pools that they have that they are salt water, that all removal is pumped off and taken off the site by truck and disposed of, and that pool water, it's filled, not using private wells. I think all 3 of those should be moved up into the special conditions because in this case, they're particularly important.
Yeah, I agree.
You'll move all the pool to special instead of its own section.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except, well, there's one with an auto cover, if that's applicable. I don't remember whether this is an auto cover or not.
I believe, it is.
Yeah. Okay, then all 4 of them. That would take care of that easily.
Yes, good. And the other one is we have our new in perpetuity care of mitigation language, and that I think should be in here.
I was that one crossed my mind because I don't think they have any invasives around them.
Right.
That is true.
The hedge.
So maybe we could modify it.
At the same time, invasives don't appear only by adjacent invasives. They can appear through seeds.
Wasn't there some sort of hedge?
There's a privet hedge between the properties, I believe.
Yeah, that maybe that's invasive. I don't know.
It's certainly non-native. Yes, it's considered invasive. It's considered invasive.
It is. It sprouts up quite well on its own. All right, so I can add that. So we'll move the pool stuff, add the invasive language. This was a Crystal doesn't have the newest template, I don't think, with the new invasive stuff added, and she started this one. So I'll make sure she gets that one.
Yeah, it's in the Dropbox as the April something template.
Okay, anybody else? Doesn't look like it.
Okay, make a motion that we approve the order of conditions for 28 Cross Street with the recommended changes.
Latin second.
Roll call vote, Bob.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So as long as Sean doesn't have any big problems with it, that will be approved.
Yes, I will send it out to him as soon as I make the changes and just double check. But he shouldn't have a problem with any of those. They were all things we discussed. So
I wouldn't think so, no.
All right, next up we have 45 Hardings Lane, Teresa and Eric Peterson, map 14C, parcel 21, SE 103552. Demolition of existing dwelling and partial demo of existing garage, construction of a new dwelling outside the aura, construction of a swimming pool, patio, and addition to the garage.
Good afternoon, David Clark Engineering. I hope everybody can hear me. On behalf of the Petersons, as stated, the the applicants are going to be tearing down the existing house, and building a new house further away from the resource area. Resource area being a old cranberry bog to the north of this property that through a series of ditches discharges out to the oyster pond. The BVW was flagged by Blue Flags Design, and we show the limits of that as well as the 50 and the 100. They're proposing a swimming pool. By moving the house closer to the street, it gets more of the pool outside of your jurisdiction. That is something that we mentioned to the homeowner in the beginning of the project, and then finally towards the end of the design, they consented to move everything towards the street. The patio will be dry laid. The other part of the project is in order to conform to the building coverage requirements, they have to take the back portion of the garage off. And they'll be putting a second floor addition on a portion of the garage, which doesn't require alterations on the ground. Attached to the garage is a pergola with a patio underneath. Finally, we show some pool equipment off to the west side of the property. Nikki did email me her concerns about the pool fence that's shown on our plan. There was a last minute revision on the landscape plan, and the landscape plan shows the correct extents of that fence. So it's not encircling the whole backyard anymore. It's just more of a visual barrier for the neighbors. The homeowners understand that they pretty much have wilderness in the backyard, and there's really no need for a fence to enclose the area. So that fence has been shortened up quite a bit. This project has to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That is scheduled for May 12, I believe. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, David. So just want to make sure that I, as a digital person, has you're saying that the fence is not what it was, and that it's on the planning plan, or I mean mitigation plan?
Yeah, on the mitigation planting plan. It shows the fence coming off the northwest corner of the house and going towards the west, and then taking a turn to the north. Looks like probably just 20 feet, and it stops short of where we show the pool equipment. So it's more of a barrier to the neighborhood from getting into the backyard, and they're planning on fortifying that area with vegetation to complete the barrier, so to speak.
Okay, I think I see it. So it ends goes on two sides of the big tree. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and it ends there. It wasn't clear to me whether that. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It didn't look so much as it didn't look like a pool fence as it looked like a property fence as originally proposed.
Yeah, and we'll submit a revised plan after today's input from the commission, showing the correct location of the fence.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and open it up to anyone on the commission with questions about this. There should be a number of questions. This is a rebuild. We typically have a number of them.
If we could just, deal with the elephant in the room with the tree.
Okay,
issue,
yeah, good idea.
the violation, just get that out of the way.
The elephant, not everybody knows there's an elephant in the room, but go ahead and point it out.
I don't believe that these homeowners were responsible for this, so I just want to put that out there, but I can pull up the picture.
I know while we're waiting for Nikki, we did mention this to the homeowners, and obviously they were not aware of it. They just purchased the property last year, 2021. From the pictures that Nikki will bring up, it looks like this tree cutting was done between 2013, 2015. And it appears that 3 trees. So the landscape designer incorporated additional trees into the design. I think there's 11 trees altogether in his planting list.
How did this come to our collective attention, just out of curiosity?
This I found Sarah from the community development side had asked for a ZBA comment at some point, and it was just one of those things that we had 0 filings in the conservation file, so I looked at the health file and it showed a garage. The garage is actually in a much different footprint, different than what was approved from between the 80s and then reapproved in 2001 to add this addition from the building department, but the building department plan was just a foundation plan. It didn't have the wetland resource on it. It was just back when the departments didn't really communicate. So anyways, I was going back on Google Earth to see if the garage was permitted by conservation, and that's when I was like, whoa, all of a sudden there's a bunch of trees gone.
Mm-hmm. So there was never a mitigation area for the original or any work?
No, originally the house and the garage from the coastal plan that was done in 1987 or 88, everything was outside of our jurisdiction. It was when they increased the garage to do, it used to be more of an L shape, and then now it's the long rectangle. So you can see like the skylights or something towards the end, towards the wetland. That whole section was what was, well, I think the whole thing was redone, but that section is what all of a sudden became in our jurisdiction. And then I think the resource area may have changed a little bit. Coastal had it as a ditch in the 80s, and now it seems to be more of a full BVW.
Okay. So, okay, go ahead. Let's start with Elise.
I just have a question about the yoga area. What is that? What is that specifically? What is it made of? What is it?
I don't have an answer. I can find out and get back to you.
Okay, my concern would be that they'd use some kind of a surface that wouldn't be appropriate. So just wondering. Thank you.
It's our first yoga area, I think.
Yeah.
I would assume, looking at the plan, it's probably going to be the same bluestone as the patio, and then just bring out a mat when they want to do their exercises. But I will confirm that.
That's correct.
Thank you. I would personally like to push in the mat, but that's okay.
Right. Is that all, Elise? Yes, it sounds like it. Karen.
Can you speak to why there's the big increase in driveway, that we need another new drive and going in front of the house, as well as what's being kept? Because it seems like there's quite a bit of space.
Yeah, that's not part of the application.
Oh, true. Okay. True. Okay. I also was concerned about what the yoga area is. If it's bluestone, is it included in all of the calculations?
Yes, it is.
And then can someone speak to what trees are being removed? Because I know you want to remove that one where the pool equipment's going, but are there other trees being removed? It's not really at least clear to me what's being removed and what's staying.
Yep. So for the pool and the work on the garage and the patios and whatnot, no trees have to be removed. The landscape designer is calling for the damaged Norway spruce to be removed. And so that is the only tree that is being requested to be removed, I believe.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Karen. Bob, you no longer have your hand up?
All right, some of the questions were answered.
Okay.
I'm still looking at the plan. Thank you.
Okay, all right, good. Just while we're talking about trees, do you, David, know what that enormous, gigantic tree is that apparently you're not removing?
That we're not removing?
Yeah, I assume you're not removing the gigantic tree right near the pool where the pool equipment is being proposed.
That on our site plan, that is the Norway spruce. That
Oh,
is
that
the
is.
large,
Oh,
the large
is the big one.
circle.
Oh.
The large circle on the landscape plan.
Well, that's the spruce. Okay, I was confused about that. Okay. When you say Norway spruce, you don't mean Norway maple.
I think I don't know exactly, but based upon the landscape designer calls it out as a spruce.
Spruce, Norway spruce. Not
Yeah,
sure if
so
I'm
no-
familiar with it. Not familiar with it.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, Norway spruce. Yeah, that's the one that's damaged.
It is a spruce. Okay. Is that? I mean, I know that Norway maples are considered to be invasive non-natives. Is that the same? Or Norway spruces considered as the same? Bob, you happen to know?
No.
They're not. Or they're not, or you don't know?
No, they're actually beneficial. You know, they have cones and so forth that the wildlife will feed off of and so forth. And it's good shelter for birds and that type of thing.
All right. Okay. So, given that, David, is there rationale for removing it?
It looks like it's it's pretty heavily damaged. It looks like the trunk was broken right off about halfway up, probably from a storm. So it's probably going to suffer some disease or setbacks later on in life.
Well, as all trees do. But I am interested in hearing the reasoning why it's being proposed for removal.
I think simply as shown on the landscape plan, it says damaged Norway spruce, so that's why.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, I mean, it's such a specimen. So if it is indeed not invasive, it is indeed beneficial to the environment, and we often will get for what it's worth in some cases, an independent assessment of the health of the tree. Would that be would you be open to that, or would you, David, or would your applicants be open to that?
I would say they probably wouldn't be adverse to that.
Wouldn't be adverse. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
A
would
double
say
negative. I don't know.
if they have a tree person that they are planning on doing that work, then maybe they could just, write a memo, provide a couple pictures or something that says that it's damaged beyond repair. My thing is that if it is just going to die and fall over and they remove it and then they don't have to put mitigation there, I think this is kind of a better option than that. I'd rather not deal with this as an AR in a year or something and just get it done now.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get an arborist or a tree person in to remove this tree. The house is coming down and they can simply take the tree down with an excavator and a chainsaw. So, because there's nothing will be in the way once the house is removed.
Much easier, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I will say something that I probably shouldn't say, in that sometimes I get the sense, and maybe I'm just speaking out of school, that sometimes we get tree reports that are in the applicant's favor for removing the tree, and it seems like it's almost near. I've never had one. Let me just say this: we've never had a tree report come in that we asked for where it says, oh yeah, that tree can be saved. Never. So I hope that whoever they get to do the report doesn't feel like they are being paid to provide a certain answer.
Okay.
In other words, someone who's independent. Give us a sober assessment as to whether that tree is going to live for the good while. If you know what I mean.
Yes.
Okay.
May I speak?
Who are we? If you will identify yourself.
This is Don Moore. I'm the landscape designer. And,
okay. All right.
And you're talking about the tree in question.
Sure.
Obviously, I have some
please
insight
do.
on it. It's a beautiful old Norway spruce. And it was unbalanced because I guess it was shaded out on one side. That being said, it lost at least a good third of the top of the tree. It's all splintered and broken down the main central trunk. So it is going to be disease prone and weakened by the whole event. I'm not one to take out old, historic trees, but it definitely will become a problem or an issue later, dropping branches and, becoming a logistic problem as well as getting it out later. So that's why I put the 3 red cedars in the same area to, mitigate that.
Right. Well, I'm sure you have experience and expertise in this area, and is there a way for you to sort of write up a quick explanation of your assessment of the prospects for the tree, even if it were treated? I mean, I do see some large historic trees treated so that broken out part is capped, covered, and then it's treated for disease. Can it with some effort be saved or not? Just your professional opinion. Professional opinion. Objective. Professional opinion. I know it'd be hard. It may be hard for you, but I'd be happy with that.
Okay.
Can they put some money into saving the tree and save it? I guess is the bottom line question. All right, Janet.
Oh, okay. Don, so I noticed that the plan retains existing lawn up to the mitigation area and over the no disturb line. Would your clients be open to removing that and keeping the lawn out of the no disturb zone? We have an opportunity now to do it and to naturalize that area in the no disturb zone rather than keeping lawn in there. They still have a lot of lawn. But I'd like to see it removed from the NDZ.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is where that big Norway spruce is now is actually all grass underneath that as well, where the pull equipment is.
Yeah.
So that's all being taken out. And again, in terms of actual square footage of mitigation, I think we've taken out quite a bit here. I think it's 2,500 square feet or
Of
about 25
or lawn removal. I mean.
Yeah, lawn removal, and the addition or the back of the garage is being removed, so that's all going part of the mitigation. So I mean, we can, you can see where the existing bed line is now, the existing lawn line, and the proposed new bed line. So again, anything beyond the new bed line is all going to be part of the mitigation.
And when you say new bed line, do you mean a demarcation line to demarcate the mitigation area?
You can call it that. It's more, it is a bed line. So everything beyond that, it's been planted with mitigation plants and so forth. So it's going to go back to.
We will be looking for some way to demarcate that area so that particularly, I mean, if you're going to have turf grass, in the no disturb zone, going bang up against a mitigation area, it has to have a demarcation so that landscapers don't start mowing into the mitigation area. So whether it's a 1-foot high split rail fence or a metal strip, something to keep people out of that mitigation area. And any of this lawn that's existing, I'm assuming, is going to be will meet our standard conditions of no fertilizer, no pesticides, no underground irrigation.
Correct. So just to make sure I understand you, so where the 50-foot line is, beyond that, you want to see that lawn disappear or go back to natural grass?
I would strongly prefer that.
Well, what I'm
Okay,
looking at is why have this mitigation area adjacent to the pool instead of just putting that here? I mean, I don't think anyone's we're always looking for more mitigation, but I don't think we're asking for more than's proposed, but it's more beneficial for us to have our true 50-foot no disturb zone, no lawn. So if it's a lawn versus plantings area, move some of these to this area.
Absolutely. That's the right response. You don't have to extend your mitigation, but it needs to be done so that the mitigation is adjacent to the BVW and in the no disturb zone.
Yeah, I don't think we were counting that area towards the mitigation. I could be wrong, but because it wasn't contiguous with everything else.
Oh, okay. Well,
And all the mitigation that's shown in around the edge of the naturalized area is all lawn that's coming out. So we almost have
where? Okay, so
also all the mitigation, except for the footprint of that spruce, is all within lawn area. So we are removing lawn in order to get the mitigation in. I
think we would all just prefer maybe a little bit of maneuvering of the mitigation to give us that true 50-foot no disturb zone, because that little chunk of lawn in the no disturb zone doesn't seem to, I don't know, it just seems like a waste of not getting our true 50-foot no disturb.
Yeah, and having a really good, robust vegetated buffer strip between all of the hardscape and the lawn and the BVW. And Don, I would just also mention it would be helpful if on your plan you would indicate which of these areas are considered mitigation. Because you have a lot of landscaping going on here, but I don't really see.
I echo that out.
Mitigation.
If you could somehow shade
it, yeah, color
the
shade.
actual mitigation areas, that way there'd be no confusion about it, because I'm really having a hard time visually discerning it. It's ambiguous where the mitigation area actually is, to me.
And it'll show the ridge elevations, because this is something.
But I also I agree that we shouldn't wind up with no grass in the NDZ. However we wish to accomplish that.
Yeah. Well, we would just in planning this, we were just following the regulations that talk about a 25-foot 25-foot vegetated buffer to the BVW, and the regulations do allow for maintaining existing disturbance in the no disturb zone. So there really isn't any mention of restoring a no disturb zone in the regulations. So we feel we comply with the intent of the regulations, and by providing more than one-to-one mitigation for the increase in site coverage.
Sure, but when it comes to essentially a total rebuild like this, I'm not sure that logic still applies. And really, I don't think we're talking about that much lawn area in the NDZ area. So it doesn't seem like something that should be of a concern to the applicant.
And again, they can reorganize the current mitigation to maybe get rid of some of it in the 50 to 100 and put it in the 0 to 50, so that they aren't necessarily losing lawn space, but they do have the true no disturb zone.
Yeah.
I'm kind of I'm kind of getting the feeling this is one we're not going to exactly budge on. So just if you could just ask them.
Sure.
See.
Yeah, we got plenty of time, so because
Yeah.
ZBA is not till next month, so.
And just while we're talking about mitigation, did you say, David, that the area next to the patio, which is next to the pool, is or isn't mitigation?
I didn't consider it in my narrative as being
Okay.
part of the mitigation
Okay.
because it was
So,
not contiguous to.
yeah, and that's where the shading in the revised plan will help us, because I thought it was. I just assumed it was. But so is that the plantings that are in that bed, which is not mitigation, are they, what are they? Are they native plants or not native plants, or a mixture?
They are native. They are mostly native plants.
Mostly native. Okay. All right, good. Karen.
Well, along that line, I'm having trouble finding that most of these the shrubs are native. Oak leaf hydrangea, I don't think is. I was just looking. I'm not seeing most of these on the list of native plants. So I have a concern about that.
On the list, the list that you're referring to, Karen, is
it's the mitigation plant list that's on his mitigation plan.
No. I mean, what I mean is, well, for example, oak leaf hydrangea, I happen to know is a native. So I'm asking which reference list you're looking at
Cape Cod nativeplants.org.
And that's not, and so oak leaf hydrangea is not on that list.
No.
Oh, that's surprising to me. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just having trouble finding almost everything. So I just hope somebody could speak to that.
Okay.
Are these like cultivars? Like, so the Arrowwood viburnum is, but Chicago luster is a different type of Arrowwood viburnum. So
correct.
That might be part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a dentatum. It's in the dentatum family.
Yeah, no problem. I can send that.
So to Karen's point, we typically refer applicants to that list to determine whether or not a plant is considered to be native for our purposes. So it would be helpful if you took a look at it. And
I'm not sure which plant you're regarding as non-natives. I'm looking at the list right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, they don't necessarily look non-native to me, but Karen's point is that there's an objective list that we point to so that we know whether a plant is considered in the state of Massachusetts or in this more local area to be native. So if there's a discrepancy, I think that's worth going over.
Nicole, didn't you just get a new updated list that we were going to use instead of the 3 that we had in the old orders?
Yeah, so we use the more comprehensive one that Chatham does. So all of these are Ilex glabra, clethra, viburnum dentatum. They're all native. It's just whether you add that, I don't know if, it's like having different types of roses.
Yeah, if they're cultivars, some cultivars are not considered by native plant enthusiasts to be native and so forth.
Right. But sometimes they're beneficial because they grow better in a certain area. So I don't know if you want to speak on why you chose the certain, the shamrock and the Chicago luster versus just a straight native. I mean,
the shamrock, I can talk about. Shamrock is a more compact, more vibrant glabra, and again, it's the native ones tend to get leggy in short time. The shamrock stays a little closer, and the Chicago luster just has a different pretty berry display. So. But other than that, there is not much on there that is not, from the Massachusetts coastal list. sparkleberry, again, is another Ilex verticillata that is, more compact and more magnificent with the berry display. So that's the reason I chose that. And again, those particular plants, I believe, are around the pool area as well. So they're not in that 50-foot area.
They're not in the formal mitigation area, right?
Right.
We could consider them to be foundation plants. We have allowed, in some cases, non-natives or mixture of natives and non-natives in those areas. Anyway, to my eyes, I recognize most of these. I hadn't recognized the sparkleberry. Okay. So, but you do know the list that Karen was speaking of.
Are we talking about Chatham list specifically?
Yeah.
No. I'm not sure if I'm aware.
Okay. Is it possible, Nikki, for you to send that to him?
Yes, I can send that to you tomorrow.
Yeah, you can just have it and take a look at it. And for your information.
Yeah, most of these came off of the mass.gov coastal landscaping plant list, just to verify.
Okay. But on that note, in the mitigation areas, obviously, it should not be a mixture of natives and more ornamental types. And
okay,
is it possible?
Well, I can reduce the descriptions to just conform to the official list.
Yeah, I think that it'd be easier on everyone if there simply was no doubt that they are. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I don't see any hands up, so I'll just
change those to the more familiar with natives.
Yeah. So what I have here is that we're going to get a revised site plan that shows greatly reduced pool fence. We're going to get some. I'm hoping. I've asked for some justification for moving the Norway spruce.
Since Dawn's on the call now, probably get a clarification of what the yoga area is made out of.
Okay.
Yeah, that is strictly a yoga mat suggestion. They may put sand in there actually.
Okay.
That's what the dots represent, a soft area for him to do yoga.
Well, that's pervious.
It's better than bluestone.
Yeah.
More comfortable for sure. Yeah. What else are we looking for? We're going to look for a revised mitigation plan that more clearly shows us where the mitigation areas are. We're going to look for hopefully lawn areas not being in the NDZ. And so on that note, or the lawn that it will be out in the outer R, in other words, the 50 to 100, what will that be? What will this be its composition?
Are you asking me now? What will it be?
Yeah.
Well, again, it was existing. We haven't,
You're just going to leave what's there.
Pretty much. I mean, I can. I'm trying to aesthetically create a nice lawn as well, and or a nice landscape rather. And so if I bring that, the grass line back to that 50-foot line from wetland, then I think that that will create a much bigger area to the right or to the 50 within the 50-foot, and then it reduces the lawn area where it becomes just a pathway as opposed to major grassway.
Right.
But again, just reducing the area and making it work with the design as well.
All right. Anyone else? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I still would like to create a bed around the backside of the pool, and whether I include those plants or something different, it'll be clear about what's mitigation, what's not. But that bed would be reduced a little bit, but not much. So there's not going to be a lot of lawn in that area then, when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Between the 50 and the 100.
Right. Yeah, we're not asking that. I think that area next to the patio be reduced. We were just trying to figure out whether it was mitigation or not.
Okay. One last thing. The Petersons understand that they purchased the responsibility for the trees that were removed without a permit. And Dawn does show replacement trees on the planting plan. Will that suffice for mitigation for that removal?
Well, it's a good question, David. And of course, we don't know specifically what was removed. All we have is
well, based
Google
upon the size of the trees from the photographs, based upon the photographs, that they were substantial trees.
Yeah.
At least 12 to 14 inches in caliber, I would say. They were. If you look at the before and after pictures, it was a sizable canopy that was removed. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear from the photographs it was 3 trees. I think Don is proposing 11 trees for that and the spruce removal. I just want to come back one more time to the commission and
yeah, I mean it's a fair question. More trees the better, obviously, in all cases for us, even if so wherever there's a place to put a tree, obviously we're in favor of it. We don't know what was removed specifically. We can guess. I actually, while we're talking about trees, I do see, the plant list shows 11 trees being added, but 5 of those are sparkleberry hollies, which some plant descriptions that I read say are shrubs, and that in some cases can grow to be, sizable, but then the question is, around here with our poor sandy soil, what is the likelihood that they're going to get tree sized? So I'll ask, I'll throw that question out.
Yeah, that's they are shearable, that kind of a thing. But that being said, the amelanchier and the juniper and the holly are definitely tree size.
Yeah, those are trees.
Biomass.
Those are trees.
Yeah.
But that just means you're talking about 4 trees being put in, if by the strict definition of my tree.
With the increase, with removing some of the lawn in the back, we can throw a few more trees in there as well.
I think considering the elephant in the room of the previous apparent violation of tree removal, which obviously is not this current owner's fault, but nevertheless, in the spirit of trying to make up for that, more trees in your revised plan would be certainly welcome. Actual trees. Okay. Oaks are always great, as you know.
I was just about to say, I would love to see some oaks. I feel like those that were removed were probably oak type.
Could have been
maple. It's hard to tell, but
yeah, a couple oaks would be great, if not more.
The soils in this neighborhood, especially closer to the wetland, are poor. So they're heavier soils. We'll come up with something.
Yeah, just put some thought to it. All right. Anything else that I have not mentioned that we have talked about? Don't hear anything. So when would you like David to come back? You say they're now the zoning is on when?
May 12. So we can be the day before that, I guess, is a regular meeting.
Yes, I believe so. We have May 4th for the work session. Yes,
I mean, the revisions that you've asked for are not substantial, and I don't foresee any issues with complying with all of that. So I think we'd be fine with the 11th.
Well, just on that note, so I will be asked for zoning comments. If you're going on the 12th, I'll be asked to submit any comments I have, at least a few days beforehand. So we're not having any issues with the pool and the garage. We didn't really focus on those too much.
Yeah, well, the pool is not part of the ZBA application because it conforms. So it's really the house and the alterations to the garage that the zoning board will be reviewing.
All right, and so the garage is decreasing in size from
Yes.
what's existing, while wasn't necessarily permitted in the first place. It is going smaller. So yeah, I just want to make sure when I draft my quick letter to Sarah that I have confidence that the commission will approve something that whether we revise the plans or not, it's the zoning stuff will not change. So that is just the garage and we have no say over the house. It's out of our jurisdiction. So just the garage.
I'm guessing if zoning has something to say about the house, it would reduce it, which isn't an issue for us, of course.
Correct.
Other than it might allow the pool to retreat, which we would like even better. Okay. So we're talking May 11th.
Yes, looks like it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we continue 45 Hardings Lane to May 11th, 2022.
Latin second.
Roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So we'll see you all on the 11th.
Thank you.
May 11th.
Thank you.
All right, our last notice of intent is 48 Strong Island Road, Maureen Sullivan and Thomas Fontaine, map 12M, parcel 12C6, SE10 3544. Construction of a second floor addition, rebuild first floor deck, first floor stoop, driveway expansion, vegetation mitigation, and land management. So just a quick background, we had more or less approved this to go for an order of conditions. Then I saw that zoning and planning had issues with the driveway fill and everything, and Thad had informed me that there was going to be a new plan from him and possibly from Teresa from Blue Flax. So I started drafting the order anyway, and then I realized I'm not going to go through this and redo the numbers and all that kind of stuff. So we continued to today for them to give us a quick update on what was changed. It doesn't change the overall scope of the project. It was just stuff I didn't want to start drafting and change later. With them coming back with a minor plan change and all that kind of stuff. So with that, I will, and also I opened the plan today to look at it and realized it was a letter that said it was the continuance request that I uploaded into Dropbox. So I don't know how that happened. So you didn't see Thad's plan, but you saw Teresa's, which basically showed what the changes were. So I don't know if anyone else had that issue. And digital versus paper, who knows?
So we have it in Dropbox. There is the revised mitigation plan, but
nope, it's just
Right.
the Blue Flax one, because I had no access to a scanner once I realized that this had happened, and I searched my email and couldn't find it. But Thad, I'm sure would love to share his screen and show us his plan.
I was hoping to keep it quicker than that. For the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. I can share this screen.
I can do Teresa's too. I mean, Teresa shows enough of this. I mean, it was a minor change in basically our favor. So
Yeah, no, and the change is actually less of a change. So rather than having the driveway expansion as we had completed before and proposed before, we are now proposing to keep the driveway the same. So we have. So the existing driveway that's down below leading to the garage, we had proposed to expand it, and now we're proposing to leave it the same. So if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
That's the sum total of the change. Okay, so is Teresa, is there anything, is Teresa here for the Blue Flags plan, or that's self-evident? Hello?
She's not here. Thad, can you slide your plan over just a little bit so I can see the coverage numbers that have they been changed to reflect the elimination of the
They
driveway?
have been. They've gotten a little bit, they've gotten better, and you've gained a little more vegetation back. Teresa's plan either adds a few more plants or it spreads them out so that you have a larger vegetated area in that low point.
Yeah, so Teresa's plan, it does have vegetation right up to the existing driveway now where there was going to be like the stone boulders. And so again, I want to reiterate that I didn't think that this was going to be an issue with us in any way. I just wanted to make sure we had all the correct numbers and not go through the whole change in plan and possible amendment, because if I issued an order for the previous one, I had to address fill and the driveway expansion and everything, and I didn't want to bother doing that if it wasn't going to happen, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. So, so sorry for the long, drawn-out process. I know it can be frustrating, but it was just kind of a let's make the file as clear and concise as possible.
Okay. Elise, are you done, Janet?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question about the pine tree that was to the right of the driveway when you're exiting, that they were going to remove because of sight lines. Is that still the plan? Do you
That's
know?
a Leland cypress tree.
Okay.
So non-native tree, and it is getting into the sight line, so that is still being proposed to be removed.
Okay. I couldn't remember the status of that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah. All right. What is this? This looks like the Atwood Museum.
That was the Atwood Museum. This is
Nice.
this is a viewer. So there's the Leland cypress to be removed, and the burning bush that will also be removed. Those are two main detriments to the sight lines coming out of this driveway.
Yep.
Will the
big
burning
Leland.
bush be treated?
We can certainly review that with Teresa at the onset. They're either going to pull the whole thing or pull it and treat it to make sure it's gone.
I mean, I would imagine they would have to treat it. I was just curious. I have a giant one in my front yard, and it embarrasses me, and I want it gone.
As it should. As it should.
So this was more of an informational question for myself.
All right. So it sounds like we are don't have everything else. We are good to go. So you didn't actually, you didn't make substantial progress, Nikki, on the order conditions. So we will go to the next work
not
session.
since I had originally started. It's not ready to vote on by any means. It's
Yeah.
it's probably over half done though. So I would
Okay.
say, for the sake of not dragging this on, and the next hearing, we got very few new filings for. We have Tulipy Run, which I meant to ask Catherine if they were going to actually be on the 27th or not. Those 3 Tulipy Run revetment ones. Todd, do you know?
Yeah, I think we're going to be probably continuing that because we're adding WED to the team to do some mitigation and other things. And we're still working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife on one of those properties. So we'll
Okay.
most likely be continuing.
All right, so 427 actually is pretty small, so I would like to just throw this one on there and get it over with.
Yep.
Okay, for an order of conditions, in other words.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, we'd like to continue 48 Strong Island Road to the hearing on April 27, 2022 for an order of conditions.
Latin second.
Roll call vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. And that's, we'll see you then. It's been 2 hours. Is that right? Yes. Anybody want to take a break just for a bit? Because what we have left are the report on, we have a COC, then the Eastward Ho report in some minutes. Just wondering if we should just take a few minutes.
I would do like
Sure.
a 5-minute.
Yeah. Let's just take 5. And sometimes the discussion on the report can go on. So let's, Dallas, if you wouldn't mind clocking us out for until 5 minutes or so.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. See you then.
1.
Okay, we are back. Nikki, what do we have?
We are on to the request for a certificate of compliance for 17 and 12 Mistover Lane, Jean Brown, map 17C, parcel 42 and 46, SE 10 2261, proposed repairs to an existing rock revetment. And Todd, I have no problem with, just as you popped up, I have no problem with the revetment repairs, but that snow fence issue's gotta be dealt with.
I'm sorry, which snow fence issue?
So, I mean, it's basically just debris sitting on the bank.
The pictures do look pretty sad. Looks like they're in sad shape.
Yes, and I was actually out there this morning just to make sure it hadn't been cleaned up or anything before I brought it up, but I will pull them up.
Yeah, well, they're doing that septic system also. That's what brought this to our attention, that it wasn't closed out from way back when it was constructed. So we'll have it done with that septic system construction.
We're talking about the, you're going to show a picture.
Oh, that. Oh. Oh, the old drift fence.
Yes.
Okay. That wasn't part of the other application. That wasn't part of the other order of conditions, though.
It's not a part of this order of conditions, and I was researching the files trying to find where the fence even came up, if it ever did, and I couldn't find anything. So knowing that we had these series of Mistover Lane permits coming up, I left it for this one, but I mean, it's debris. So it's either got to be removed or come up with some sort of plan on where it's better placed, because, you know, it's up fairly high from where the drop off occurs now. So it's not really doing anything up here.
Right. Well, it helped hold the sand up there where it wanted to be held up.
Yes, but at this point, it's not being, I mean, you can see there's just loose things. I mean, it needs to be somehow shored up. So I wasn't sure how to go about. I don't want to deny the revetment COC, but, you know, obviously this area needs to be cleaned up in some way. We don't want these metal, you know, staples and everything in that area.
So Nikki, you couldn't find a record authorizing the fence, the drift fence or sand fence, whatever you want to call it. So as far as
nothing specifically, but, you know, it's a good 2 feet of files for these two properties. So I would have to dig, you know, deeper.
Right. So we don't know yet whether it was even approved. It may or may not have been, but we don't believe it was part of the revetment repair project.
No, wasn't part of
that
OOC repair.
Yeah, so it's a separate issue, I guess. So I guess we're looking for so so the actual revetment repair, though, you're fine with?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are clear to approve that if you recommend it. As far as the sand fence is concerned, do you want to look through the files more? Do we want to have the applicant's representative do a search on their end for whether or not they ever requested this?
Yeah, I don't think it was something that we requested, but I can go through our files. It would have to go way back.
Yeah, but
because that revetment was there before.
Yeah, I certainly agree, though, that it needs to be cleaned up. It's a hazard, it would appear. So we'd like to have some sort of well, Nikki, I guess if they don't come forward with a plan to fix it up, then you can approach it in your own normal way.
So I guess, just so everyone's clear, the chain would be either don't get a certificate of compliance until this one is done. That could be one up, or till this is cleaned up, which That's not exactly a great way to go because the certificate
I-
of compliance is not asking for the fencing stuff.
That doesn't
Obviously
seem to be
search
an
through the
option.
files, see if there is any order that says that the drift fence was allowed to be permitted. And or give you the good grace of a few months to either file something or get it cleaned up before I do an enforcement order.
Right.
So it's probably more of a Todd and I conversation once he talks to maybe his clients and we figure out what the smoothest way to go is. But the revetment itself, that project I have no issue with.
Yeah, I don't think we can hold up closing that out over the fence.
Yeah, no fence was ever mentioned in that project, so.
Yep. So we can approve that, Bob, I think, if you'd like to make a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for 17 and 12 Mistover Lane.
Latin second.
Roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Kelly, I'll get with you, within the next day or so. Nikki, sorry.
Kelly, are you in Yarmouth?
Forgot where I was.
I don't know.
All right. The Australian accent didn't give it away.
She's
All
actually
right, so the
leaving,
next
too.
thing.
She's
We have 325 Fox Hill Road, the annual report for Eastward Ho, map 10M, parcel 2-1, annual shorefront protection report. I'm going to politely ask that someone else takes the lead on this because I have not done this annual report before.
Okay, all right.
So Charlie is more or less asking that this be the last giant report that he gives, and not necessarily the end to reports, but not so comprehensive. But I will let Charlie go into that with you. I have not been a part of any of the annual reports, obviously, before this, so I'm not sure exactly what you guys discuss, what you're looking for.
Well, I can provide a little context. How many of us on the commission is this the first time to go through this report? Just raise your physical hand. 1, 2. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's and the context is that there's if you read through all the documents that were sent, you will notice that there was special legislation passed that allowed Eastward Ho to build revetments where normally they might not have been allowed, but that was done. Yeah, let me look at my. That was done in the 1997, and then the town, I guess, a year later followed suit with its own similar language. So the revetments are there, and they weren't done with them. This was when I first started hearing this report. Now it is entirely revetted, as I believe. Art Charlie can correct us on that. And the main issue for us normally has been to figure out whether the annual nourishment is suitable, and also whether or not there's a way to determine whether or not the revetments are negatively affecting the eelgrass, marsh grass, and shellfish. So I'll just leave it at that. And Charlie, if you'd like to take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Bob. Just for the record, Charlie Agro with Coastal Engineering Company on behalf of Eastward Ho Golf Course. And as Bob stated, yes, the property is mostly revetted. There's one area where it's not revetted, and that's where it's been called the artificial dune, which is a man-made dune back maybe 10 or 15 years ago or so. That's an area where the existing grade above the shoreline is relatively low lying, and the dune has held up pretty well to prevent erosion of the upper bank. And at this point, a revetment is not needed here. And we're actively monitoring that, as well as the rest of the beach, to keep that dune in good shape to avoid any further erosion of it. And then just to clarify how Nikki's point there, every year we, as part of what Bob said, the shorefront management program here, we do a survey of the entire site, topographic and bathymetric survey to compare beach volumes. We do, alongside Woods Hole Group, we survey for shellfish quantities, salt marsh areas, eelgrass areas, and we compare all the information year over year. And over the last several years, since there hasn't been any major work on the revetment, typically the report's been about the same. There's fluctuations in the volume every year of the shoreline itself, and then the resource areas have been in an overall decline since about 2015. And previously there was new revetments being installed just about every other year, and there was a lot more construction going on. And over the last couple of years, it's really just been nourishment construction and just about business as usual. So I approached Nikki at a pre-construction meeting for a different project, and just to save everybody's time here, I just recommended, unless any new revetment construction or maintenance construction was scheduled for the upcoming year, that we submit the report and have the commission review it. And if like I said, if any major revetment, reconstruction, or maintenance work was proposed, we can have a discussion to review that and review the results of the report. But if there were no major construction activities and no major new findings of the report, maybe we can avoid going through the annual hearing to review it. Because again, this report is going to be very similar to last year, and it'll basically be the same presentation that we had last year of the information.
Well, I'll say something about to that, Charlie. But as I understand it, especially the orders conditions that the revetments were installed under require annual report. So are you asking not to do a report or just to scale it back?
No, to continue doing the report and submit that to the commission, but to reduce the need for a hearing to discuss the report. And unless we're proposing to do any kind of maintenance construction to the revetments or install any new structures out there, because as of right now, we're not proposing anything different. It's the same nourishment volume. We've selected different areas where the nourishment goes, which I discussed with Nikki at a pre-construction meeting in the fall each year. So the findings of this report are basically just an outline of what we found during the survey. And Bob, I think it might have been you that mentioned that this is the "is what it is" report.
You quoted me. You quoted me.
Which you're right on with that. It's a survey report, and a survey is a measurement of what it is, and this is a report on that survey. So there's, the environment is very dynamic, and so there are changes every year, but the changes have been following the same trends. And I think unless there was an alarming finding, like all of a sudden it went from 50,000 square feet of salt marsh to 10,000 square feet of salt marsh, or something alarming along those lines, where something definitely jumps out at us.
All right. Well, why don't we defer your talking about your question until we hear from Janet, for example, who is waving her hands about.
Oh, I just had the cursor sitting on the little thing, and it makes it jump. So no, I thought you were
waving something. So
I was waving the salt marsh survey results. I totally understand. My recommendation, thinking about it, would be, that's fine as long as members of the commission didn't have questions that they would like to discuss. And if they have questions, then we would have a hearing to do that. Otherwise, if it's just the same old, it probably, wouldn't need. But this whole exercise was designed to give us information on a longer time frame of what the potential impacts of these revetments on the bay ecosystem might be. And I have to say, it's incredibly useful to already have this data from 2015 or 16, depending on which part it is, through 2021, in many cases showing natural fluctuations that one would expect, in other cases showing some really significant declines that are very, very concerning. You know, what ends up happening about that is the open question. But what I would like to, we have a time limit today. And one thing I would suggest, I would recommend to the commission that we send a copy of this report to the Pleasant Bay Alliance and ask them to give it a review and get back to us with their comments. And I'm partly suggesting that as a prefatory step to asking whether your clients might be open to the possibility of participating with other Pleasant Bay entities in better understanding what the systems are that are operating in the bay and what the impacts are. For example, you know, there's a reference in a couple references in here to there's no reference point to understand whether these impacts are due just to Eastward Ho or whether they are throughout other parts of the bay. And that's a very good question, and that's information we just don't have. But I'm willing to bet, I know that the Pleasant Bay Alliance might have that. There was a large conference that was held in Chatham just a couple of weeks ago on the Pleasant Bay ecosystems that the Center for Coastal Studies, the Pleasant Bay Alliance, Pleasant Bay Community Boating, among a bunch of others, and the town of Chatham, talking about what are the drivers impacting the bay. You guys, I mean, the bay is obviously a critical part of not only the town of Chatham, but the other towns that surround it. And Eastward Ho, as an owner of, you know, I don't know whether it's 30, 40, 50% of that coastline, is a significant player in that. And I wonder, given all of that, whether you'd be interested in using this data, sharing it with the others who are trying to understand what's happening in the bay, getting their data as well, and participating in a larger bay-wide effort to understand what's happening here. The decline, the problems in the salt marsh, and an overall 73% decline in the high marsh and a 35% decline in the low marsh since 2015, you know, is a very alarming development, considering particularly we're looking down the barrel of increasing sea levels, which are also, we know, going to do impact the salt marsh in a really bad way. So I wonder whether, given the position of Eastward Ho and how important the bay and its shoreline is to them, whether we might not use all of this information and try to figure out what might be done. What is the source of the fragmentation of the marshes? Where's that coming from? Is it coming from inundation that's coming from increased storm levels? We don't know. And given that this is an order of conditions and the work was all done, I don't think the commission has the authority to order Eastward Ho to do anything about any of these. This was all an exercise in data gathering so that to increase understanding, to make it feasible to make a plan going forward. So it struck me as I was reading this that particularly with regard to the salt marsh, that would be something I would like to see a bigger effort. And I think Eastward Ho is really well positioned to be an important player in that effort.
Well, I think and I think those are some really good points there. I think the information that we've gathered over the years in these reports, this is all public information. The reports are that we've submitted them to the town. And so I think this is a great, we've got a pretty good understanding of what's going on in this particular area of the bay. So if there's any other owners, if the town or the Pleasant Bay Alliance or what's the other one there, Quasit or one of these other large property owners, if they engage in a similar type review and study, then you can compare the two because we've got all this historical data from Eastward Ho along their property. So we could, rather than just, I mean, there's still going to be unknowns unless you surveyed the entire shoreline and maybe even another lagoonal area in Chatham. But you know, there's still going to be, is the current different in this particular area versus another area? Is there other differences between the areas that you're looking at? You know, there could be, it could be that the eelgrass in our particular survey area in the limits of our survey is decreasing, whereas if you go just beyond the limits of our survey, it might be increasing. But we've got to cut our survey short somewhere, or whatever. We're surveying all of Chatham Harbor, which I'd love to be in a boat driving around Chatham Harbor all day, but we got to cut the survey short somewhere. Right. And we've seen that as the sand moves around and the shoals build up, when other areas are shallower and more suitable for eelgrass can spread like Phragmites in some cases where it moves. And so we survey the exact same area every year. So we might be missing that eelgrass.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does. It
just
does.
compare apples to apples every
certain spots at certain times.
Right, because if we go and we expand that survey area and survey beyond where we surveyed, you know, 5-10 years ago, and we find all this eelgrass, it still doesn't help that comparison.
Yeah.
Well, Charlie, since you acknowledge that this is a public report, and so Janet, there's no reason the PBA can't have it. I kind of assumed they'd be getting it anyway. But if they're not getting it as a matter of course, is that something that, Charlie, it would be okay for us to forward it to them, or would you like to send it to them, or would you like to talk to your client before that, or whatever? Because it does seem like they would be very interested in seeing it, and it'd be useful to them.
I guess like any other notice of intent or any filing with the town, isn't it? Or any order of conditions, if it's public resource, wherever that resource is, I guess if Nikki or somebody wants to forward them wherever it would be saved, where the public could access it, I mean, that's just helping them find where readily accessible information is.
Yeah, it is on our, chat, our website right now, but, we could facilitate that. Since it is public.
So for the Pleasant Bay Alliance, Ted Keon is our general representative for Chatham. I go when there's certain specific things that are very conservation related, but generally it's Ted. And so I can send him and Carol Ridley, the facilitator of the PBA. I can send them the copies, and Greg Berman is also a part of that committee, and so he would be a great resource to review this. So
that's exactly.
That's not a bad idea to have the PBA take a look at it, and they have a lot of resources when it comes to reviewing coastal resource processes that sometimes are a little bit above my head, if I'm honest. So yes, I think that is a great idea to have the Pleasant Bay Alliance take a look at it each year. I definitely think it's a great idea to get, Wauquasit and everybody involved in the shoreline change. The cuts make Chatham very dynamic and hard to understand, and you're not exactly going to know whether it's the cut or the revetment or, this or that's going to change our shoreline. So the more people that are willing to review and give an opinion, the better.
Yeah, as I understand the order conditions, the Conservation Commission could say, based on your data, we see evidence that your revetments are negatively affecting Pleasant Bay. However, the report is always careful to point out that it's impossible to conclusively determine whether or not that is the case, because there are not other reference points within the bay or in other nearby coastal waters to compare it with. So all we're left with is speculation. Is it the cut that's causing it? Is it just natural decline? Is it this or that? So from this report alone, at least the authors say that it's not possible to use it to determine whether or not the revetments are having an untoward effect on shellfish and vegetation in Pleasant Bay. So spreading the report around so that perhaps other studies could be formed to provide those reference points. And that would seem to be the end goal here. And of course, that's beyond the scope of the order conditions. And it's going to have to be undertaken by another party.
I think Pleasant Bay Alliance would be that party. The state, I know from maybe 2 years ago, I don't know, the last time that the One Cape Summit met that I sent you all an email about, the last time they met in person, the state looks very favorably upon the intermunicipal things. They specifically brought up the Pleasant Bay group of towns because they thought that was amazing how they work together. So I think there's a good chance for some grant funding and things like that for studies. So so I do think we have promise in that area.
Yeah. The other part of the report typically is nourishment, and there's a set amount, there's a requested amount. I mean, I remember last couple of years, you asked us, Charlie, to vote to approve your recommended nourishment amounts. Is that something that you're doing this year, or is that?
I don't think it's necessarily a vote. It's just if there's any questions or concerns regarding the recommended locations. And the locations are based on the survey and which areas gained or lost sand is outlined. So I don't think a vote is necessary on
Okay.
where nourishment is going to be placed.
So I'm a little unclear then what you're asking. You're saying you're going to continue to do the report, or you're going to scale it back some? Is that what I hear you say there, or not scale back? It's going to be basically the same report?
Yes, that's my thoughts.
The same scope of data gathering?
Right, as required, and submit the report to conservation as required. And then I guess if you guys reviewed it yourselves, if you do want to send it out, or if there are any questions, and then we can have a hearing if needed, or if not, rather than having a like clockwork, an annual hearing to go over the report when not much has changed, we can say, you know what, we've got the data, let's put it in a file somewhere and let's hold on to it and save it.
Yeah, back in my work world, we call that shelfware.
Yeah, Nikki, there's a little bit of paperwork lying around for this project, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, so what I was just about to say is anything that's going to be basically copy and pasted, if you could reference the most recent report that it is present in and say, if it's a huge project description, just say, see the report from 2022. And this is the new data. I don't want to continually file away the same exact wording paperwork. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of all of our paper. It's a waste of our space. So, and then when I forward everything to the commission, I can attach anything that may need to be added to your report, that just for like background information, if we have new commissioners or anything, or people can always come and request. But I mean, you're taking up a full file cabinet. But no, I'm just joking.
Well, but you're not taking up much digital space though, so as long as they're filing them in digital copies, it's not too onerous.
Yeah, we aren't right now.
We're not. Oh,
an ongoing. I mean, I'm getting them in Dropbox and they're going to Teams, but again, that's our other conversation of digital and all that kind of stuff.
At the very least, if we're capturing the digital copies, that can be used by any future group, any future commission.
Yeah, but
we don't want to lose the data.
Yes, if everyone's in agreement, though, that all 7 years of the same information doesn't need to be resubmitted and just new data.
In terms of the report?
Yes. Yeah. So let me just pull it out. I mean, most reports, they give you the background information. It's the same background information that was given in the last report and the report before that. So I don't need that. So I just want like the new data.
I don't know. I don't know.
The comparison tables are very, very useful, though, to see. I loved that. I mean, I think
Oh,
that's critically important on all of these, is because you see fluctuations year on year, and you see fluctuations across different areas that have been examined.
So
I-
yeah, definitely like the tables and stuff like the long-term comparison, that kind of thing. Great, but like if there's 3 pages of the project description and what it entailed that are the same every single year, then cut that out.
But what I'm thinking of, Nikki, is that commissioners change, and a few years from now, none of us will potentially be here. Some of us might, and that context that's provided in the report, I think, is necessary to understand the report.
It is.
Also,
that's what I'm saying. Just see the last report that it was mentioned in, and nothing is changing. I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying.
I don't know.
It's easier
people,
just to
a lot
see
of people would say at that point, that's too much trouble. I'm just going.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll just throw in here that looking at this year's report, Nikki, very little of it. The first couple of pages are typical boilerplate that may have been pasted from previous years, but the vast majority of it, 90% of these, whatever it is, 60 some, 80 pages, 60 pages, are the current photographs, the current tables, the beach volume, delineate, all that stuff is what is taking up almost all of it. So even if they drop that stuff out, I don't know that it would be significantly shrunk.
Okay.
And it doesn't cost Charlie much because he just copies and pastes from last year's report. So.
All right. I definitely understand. Point taken.
Yeah. So the question then is, does Charlie need to come as a matter of default to present it to us each year? Is that right, Charlie? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Again, future commissioners looking at this fresh, I think might ask you questions that we haven't asked you, might have a perspective that we don't have, and so forth. So, I mean, we're just asking, like, it's just 30 minutes, right? Once a year. From my perspective, it's helpful. It also allows the public to hear the overview for this year's data, and some of whom to this will be new. So I would appreciate it if I were one of those people in the future, hearing you basically just introduce it, not too much detail. Or someone else that you designate.
Todd, did you have something? Your hand is up.
Oh, yes, Todd.
Yeah, it was going back to the digital and the hard copies of everything. Is it an option to just submit it digitally and not provide all the hard copies?
I think we shouldn't do any paper at all. Okay. But I'm an outlier.
Yeah, I mean, for us, honestly, we do it digitally, and then we still have to send it out to a print shop because it's so many copies and so big, it's not worth our office to do it. Yeah. So it's just.
Did I say that only one copy could be done this year?
I don't recall, Charlie.
Nikki, I think I know that we did less than the 14 copies that we used.
I'm not that I can do this, but I'm banning 14 copies of that report. I think one for the file and one, can go to digital for everybody. And if someone really wants to see the paper copy, they are free to come into the office and scan through it or make their own copies, pay for their copies. But no, the 14 copies of a 90-page report is out of control for someone who's supposed to be conservation minded.
Yeah. Does that work?
We'll go one copy, one hard copy, and digital.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
That'll help. But I would suspect that there will always be questions, so that there will always be a need to come to a hearing to address any questions that people have. Just saying, I think it's pretty likely. Don't clear your calendars.
No, well, understood, and it was just more of trying to streamline and not add another one to your agendas, which you typically have quite a few. So.
Oh, it's perfectly welcome. Elise, you have a question?
Yes, as a brand new member of the commission, I would say that this report was fascinating to me. I was just amazed at all the work that went into it. And then when I realized it's been done year after year, I had the question, has it changed? So I'm wondering if we could have kind of a combo pack here. When a new commissioner comes on board, they can know how many of these annual reports. I don't know how many of these entities there are that we get this from. If it's only Eastward Ho, it could be part of our onboard. And we
This
could be
this size
pointed
one, it's
to the-
only Eastward Ho, but I get these every week, multiple times from Wilkinson.
Oh.
Every time we issue an order that says, here's your mitigation, you are required to give us an annual report on how it's doing. I get those constantly. We have so many. A lot of people don't actually do them, and it's very hard to follow up on. But this is one of the only ones that's this extensive.
I mean, I just think it's a good learning process for someone that's new, but point them to the digital files. And, you know, I can read the history on all of these if I go to the office and pull a file, if they're not all on the Dropbox or on the site. So I, for what it's worth, Charlie, that I found it fascinating. So, and I'm glad you're here to talk it through, because that's our responsibility as a commission, is to be watching it for the town. So if we can reduce your time, that would be great. In that effort, I will shut up now.
And on that point, Elise, I will say that as commissioners gradually drop off and new ones come on, say we decided not to do this annual report or have a presentation on the annual report, it will eventually get completely lost and no one will know that any report's even supposed to be submitted. So I will give you that it is good to have something yearly for these bigger projects to keep it fresh on any new commissioners' minds as they change.
Yep. All right. Any questions about the report itself? Not about the context and the history. Janet is raising her hand.
I had a question about the nourishment, Charlie. In area 1, what happened in area 1 that eroded so much of the volume that had been placed? And then why wasn't it renourished in 2021 so that it now needs 1,000 cubic yards? What's happening there?
So what actually happened, I am not 100% sure. Just because we're out there, you know, a few days each year. So what goes on in between, and you know, you know, which way the wind's blowing, which way the sand's moving.
Yeah.
We have seen in some of these reports where there's years where the erosion will happen along the west side of the beach, from areas or more predominantly along the west side of the beach. I just lost where I was looking at. I'm sorry, bear with me 1 minute here. I was just looking at the erosion map, which I can't even share my screen if that's a possibility. Unless everybody has the erosion map and the report handy.
Oh, if you
Nope,
can.
it's always helpful to share.
Yeah, throw it up there if you can.
Yeah, I don't have.
All right, can everybody see?
Oh, that's not,
erosion
yeah,
map
okay.
there?
Yep.
So the blue areas are areas where the sand eroded, and red areas are gains. And so typically we'll see areas where, or years where this side of the beach erodes and this side of the beach gains. And then sometimes we'll see it flip-flopped. And this year was a year where the east side of the beach lost some sand. And the reason why we didn't renourish it last year is because last year the beach in this area had gained sand. So it didn't require nourishment at that time. And it's just a bit of an anomaly why the area needs as much nourishment, or it lost as much nourishment as it did this year, while the rest of the beach gained so much sand. It is as you can see here, it is a long area, so there's just more room for volume to wash away from, where the next area over, area 2, is 20% of the size. So these losses extrapolated over this length here.
Yeah, it just jumped out at me. 1,000 cubic yards is a whole lot in an area that's required to have 130 cubic yards applied each year.
Yeah, so that volume was based on the fact that all these other areas gain sand. So, and just to back it up a little bit, as mitigation for the revetments, we're required to place about 2,100 cubic yards across the revetments along the Eastward Hoe property. And each year we divide where that nourishment goes based on the survey information. Typically, if you have a revetment that's permitted and built, that particular revetment is associated with a certain volume for mitigation nourishment. And that's just where it goes, and it's done every year. Here, since we have all the survey information, it was determined years back that we would use the survey information to determine where the sand goes, rather than just do a blanket requirement that each area needs to be nourished just based on the fact that there's a revetment there. So just given that all the other areas gain sand, and it didn't make sense to put more sand in the areas that gained as much sand as they did, just a greater portion of that 2,100.
Oh, I see. You're just deducting it from the 2,100 and saying, after all of those have received the very little that they need, here's what's left over, and we'll put it all in area 1.
Essentially, yeah.
We've got to put it somewhere.
I have an explanation. That's what I was looking for. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one other question. So all of these sand volume data is interesting. Is there something in the report do you guys do beach elevation?
So we do a beach elevation survey. We don't cut profiles through the beach, cross sections, on a yearly basis, and we analyze it based on this representation here, which just for an overall representation, I think it's a lot easier to look at than a bunch of cross sections. And
so
then
it's telling us the same thing, basically.
Yes.
Where you see the blue area, the beach is likely lowered, has dropped in elevation.
That's correct. And areas that are darker blue are areas that eroded more than areas that are lighter blue, which this year the erosion, there actually were some pockets where right next to an area where it gained a significant, height of sand, which it's darker red is maybe 2 or 3 feet. There was a significant loss next door and not next door, adjacent to it. And this might represent, sometimes you'll walk the beach and there's a little drainage area between the beach and like a sandbar that forms out there. So that might be where some of those gains and losses are. And it usually happens right along the mean high water line as it's shown here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That helps.
You're welcome.
Elise, is that an old hand or new hand for you? It looks like an old hand. I'll ask a question, Charlie, and that is, I guess I didn't fully understand how the mitigation is applied. I mean, I'm sorry, the beach nourishment is applied. How is that brought in, and where is it dumped?
So it's brought in down by the Chatham Yacht Club. There's a road through Eastward Hoe. Next door to the yacht club, there's a beach access area there. So the beach nourishment is brought in just using dump trucks. It's stockpiled in the parking area, where then it's moved around using a front end loader.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
Just the front end loader brings it bucket by bucket to its end destination where the sand needs to go.
Yeah. And is it dumped on the revetments themselves?
Yes, it is. It's spread along the face of the rock revetment.
Okay. Because I passed by there a couple of times and noticed all this. I didn't even realize it was a revetment beneath it. It just looked like it was just a sandy slope there, but now I get it. Okay. It's good to know. Of course, in the order conditions, it says, yes, must be careful not to drive over with your equipment, the marsh grass and shellfish, and et cetera. I assume that's care is being taken every time with that.
Yes. The access is all above the mean high water line to avoid, any shellfish that may exist within the intertidal zone to the greatest extent possible, and as well as the salt marsh as well. There's certain areas where it gets harder and harder to get around the salt marsh, but the contractor does take great care in getting around it. And this year there were no visual instances where there was any damage to the salt marsh due to the nourishment construction.
Mm-hmm. And I assume that if there were, that somebody would get back to us with that.
Yes, yes, it would be included in the report and in the square footages, and any mitigation measures would be discussed if needed.
Right. Okay. Other questions? Is there?
I just have one quick
Okay.
one. This property has tons of orders of conditions and amendments and all that kind of stuff. Are there any that we can kind of close out like we did with was it Stage Harbor, dredging?
Outermost Harbor, I think.
Outermost Harbor, close as many out as possible and consolidate everything into one? Is that a possibility here?
That would be something I have to look into, because I know there's also a lot of upland site work going on now that I'm personally not involved with. So I don't know if there's open orders or conditions for that, or what exactly is going on. So that would be something we'd have to look into a bit.
Yeah, I don't even know. It just popped into my head. So, yeah. But as much as we can consolidate orders of conditions to cover all of the nourishment and all the revetments that have been done in the past into one comprehensive permit, is always helpful.
We could take a look at that going into next year's report.
All right, that'd be perfect.
Do you need you don't need a vote from us then, do you, Charlie?
No, I do not.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need to vote on it. This was a pure discussion.
Yes, it was pure discussion, just confirmation that we will receive one paper report, one digital report. Charlie or a representative will come before the commission to present any drastic changes, or more or less say nothing's changed from last year, at a meeting. I think is what we basically decided.
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you, Charlie. Always interesting.
Yep.
And we will get that to PBA and others.
Yes.
All right. Guess we can move on.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
To the minutes.
Yes. So the minutes for March 9th, 2022.
I have one modification. Under 90 Bridge Street, the existing shed will be replaced by a restroom. It should say and storage area. It's going to be used for two purposes. That's all I have. It's in the third or fourth paragraph, the big one. The town of Chatham purchased, blah, blah, blah.
Right, sounds good.
Yeah, 20 Jericho Lane. It says motion to continue to 4/14. It should be 13. Because we don't meet on 4/14.
I hope not.
Well, you're catching those details, Karen. That's good. Is it?
Actually, I just saw another.
There's another one.
28 Cross. We'll add a grill next to, you gotta get rid of the word R. It says
Or
we'll
put
add
in
a grill
area.
R next to.
I think it's supposed to be grill area.
Oh,
I
maybe
had
that's
the
what it's
same-
supposed to be.
Same one. That was my hand.
Okay. Didn't get that it was an area.
Okay. Your hands
That's
up,
it.
Bob? Okay, thank you, Karen.
28 Cross Street, I think it says something about the lawn. No lawn will remain. I think there is gonna be some lawn remaining, correct? With a path or something?
I think you're right.
No, 28 Cross Street got rid of all their lawn. It was just that we had a lot of questions about it, and they had it's basically, it's all lawn now, and it's all going to patio and vegetation, right?
No, I thought that there was some lawn left.
No, they had originally shown it, and then Suave had said, nope, that's actually going to be where the grill is, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, my notes say a tiny amount of lawn left, but who knows if that's accurate.
I think that's what it seemed like at first, and then Suave said, no, we're not doing any lawn. It's all either paved or some sort of material or the mitigation plantings.
Okay, good,
Let me share the screen.
good.
That's okay, I believe you.
Yeah, it's good.
I did just watch it yesterday. But I mean, I always can miss things, so of course, so.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
Nope.
Nope.
All right,
Nope.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
wait a minute,
Oh, I'm
let's
sorry.
Don't we have to?
You're ahead of
approve the
yourself.
minutes?
Yeah, getting late. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for March 9th, 2022.
Latin second.
roll call vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. And before you make that last motion, Bob, Cheryl, do you have any news for us?
No?
No? Nothing about your future intentions on the Conservation Commission?
Oh, I'm hoping that they'll reappoint me because I go off the commission after this term. So hopefully they'll reappoint me. And I asked Bob to recommend that I get to vote with all the rest.
Yes.
Yay.
So I do
Yes,
have news on that. I heard back from Shannon when we were on the meeting. So there's no official way to say that William is not on our committee, but his appointment is over on June 30th. So
okay, yeah, I
mean,
think he's gone. He doesn't respond
Right.
to anything.
yeah,
so.
I mean, it's clear.
And
But
Cheryl-
then she said, as far as Cheryl goes, being reappointed and moving up, we just have to do a vote at some
Oh, we
point.
can do that. The board doesn't need anything to do anything.
We do our vote that we recommend it, and then it goes on the Board of Selectmen's meeting.
I see. But we
Okay.
have to advertise that vote, or can we just vote?
I don't, it should be on an agenda. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just
Alright.
to be, always to be on the safe side, I'd just say, put it on the agenda.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Okay,
we'll put that
good.
on the next agenda.
So
then.
we will, so just an update, we'll have 7 full voting members. That's our full quorum, so it will definitely be 4 people need to be present at all times for voting things. We have 0 associate members though, so
Yep.
let's try to recruit some people
That's
to
right.
learn.
That's right. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Cheryl.
Oh, and the
for-
water ban has been continued as of the last Board of Selectmen meeting. That does not include conservation mitigation plantings.
Okay. But anyway, thank you, Cheryl, for agreeing to become a voting member. I think you're going to. Well, you know exactly what you're going to, how you're going to feel about it because you've seen it up close. Okay, Bob, I think we're ready for the thing that you're eager to get to.
I don't know if I want to now. Here we go.
Somebody else is going to have to do it then.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Latin second.
Roll call vote. Janet,
Aye.
Lise,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
just in the order I see you on the screen, Karen.
Aye.
Bob, you're not on the screen, but I'm assuming you're okay with it. And I vote aye too. So thank you all. And now remember, next Wednesday, we're meeting with
Maybe
that
not.
group. Oh, maybe not.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah,
Oh.
that's when I popped in on the thing and I was hearing you all talk about it, and Bob Duncanson had been mentioning that maybe we're not doing virtual anymore, or I mean, not doing hybrid anymore, so.
Oh, no, I was talking about the meeting.
With the
isn't-
Climate and Energy Committee.
Yes.
That's what Boris after thought today was, so that's why he was here. He was texting,
Oh,
aren't we meeting today? I said, no, it's next week. And he said, oh, I've got a conflict, so I don't know.
Oh, geez, all right.
His vice chair has been the one who was making all the arrangements, but maybe wasn't checking with his chair about it, so.
he sent me an agenda, but I guess I don't know if it even said dates on it or not, so.
They had the date a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been nailed down for a while, so we may or may not be meeting next week.
Well, I think we will, because to be honest, Bob Warshafter's part of this, of what's happening, doesn't involve conservation. Other people in his committee, Sarah Griscom, has been spearheading the conservation recommendations. So I think she's going to be the one who's going to meet with us.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't you just get
and it
Sarah
doesn't matter.
Can you just get Sarah to come next week?
Yeah. We'll have Sarah come.
So we will be meeting in person in the big room in the annex at 1:00 next Wednesday.
Yep.
Unless we all hear otherwise.
Unless we hear
all
otherwise,
hear
of course.
otherwise. Yep.
Okay.
All right. And then the thing you were talking about, Nikki,
Oh,
virtual.
so 427, we had decided that all the commission members would meet in the annex. Also with the invitation that any representatives or applicants or public could also join us if they wanted. There seems to be a little bit of sway on the health department side that we may or may not keep that up very much longer. I don't know if there's an uptick in the new COVID versions and stuff.
Well, he did mention that there is when we met with him in the work session.
Yeah. So,
all right.
But
just watch this space, I guess.
But as far as we know, is 427 a hybrid versus just remote?
Right. So you'll let us know. Right now, we assume that we're meeting hybrid on the 27th until we hear otherwise.
Okay. So as many commissioners that can come on the 27th would be great. And then I'll let the representatives know as well. And I'll let you know if that changes as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're
all right.
Good to go. I don't know if Dallas, if you already stopped recording, but we